outside. Let's take a look at our High 5 camera in Midtown Memphis. You can see the moon there shining brightly on this Monday morning. 27 chilly degrees as you get up on this Monday. There's another look from our High 5 camera downtown Memphis, where there is still some ice there on various parts of Tom Lee Park that you could see. Let's bring in meteorologist Patrick Ellis to get us started on this Monday. And one of the other things getting us started is this warm-up. Patrick, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Andrew. Yes, we're hopeful that we can have a long period of time here of a warm-up, and it does look to be the case here today. So that's good news for everybody. It is still cold this morning. Look at Covington, down to like 14 degrees this morning, but most spots are in the 20s here to start off the day. 27 in Somerville, Olive Branch, 22 in Holly Springs, 23 Oxford, as well as in Corinth, and 23 in Batesville. The road temperatures, that's where we're going to have still some issues here this morning. And again, anything below 25, 26 degrees will have a tendency to have frozen issues on the roadways. Now, we did have some melting yesterday. Yeah, we didn't warm up all that much above freezing, but we still had some melting yesterday here across the Mid-South. So that has now refrozen, especially on the roadways that we did not have any treatments. Treated roads will tend to be okay with the exception of a few slick spots here and there. It's just, you know, the issues that we're going to have to run into the next couple of days, but it does look like we might be able to melt a lot of this stuff off here between now and tomorrow. Hopefully. A lot of sunshine here today. It pushes the temperatures up. Upper 40s, near 50 degrees here. Southwesterly breezes coming in around 5 miles per hour. Not a bad way to get through a Monday. And of course, this will feel like we are at a tropical beach somewhere. It's going to feel fantastic with a high near 50 degrees here today and a whole bunch of sunshine. We do get rain to move in here tomorrow. And again, it will just be that plain rain moving into the Mid-South as we head towards your Tuesday. Most of the rain, though, West Tennessee, North Mississippi, eastern areas of Arkansas. Some rain, but you know, I just don't think you're going to see much more than maybe a tenth of an inch of rainfall in those locations. Maybe a tenth to a quarter in West Tennessee, a quarter to a half an inch in a few spots in North Mississippi. So as the rain chances begin to increase here through the course of the morning hours on Tuesday, just go ahead and be prepared. You'll need the umbrellas to get out the door. But hopefully by that point, there will be a lot more folks who will be able to get out on the roadways that will not be ice-covered, ice-slickened here across the Mid-South. Again, we will not drop below freezing tonight or into early portions of your Tuesday. We will start off with clouds, though, on Tuesday. It will be a cold rain that moves through here through the middle and latter portion of the morning. So if we do ultimately have school tomorrow or maybe a delay, just be prepared that the rain could be in here. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if schools will go back into session tomorrow. I have no clue, okay? I've got an 11-year-old at home who's like, I want to go back to school. I'm like, all right, I like that. Keep that same energy all the way through middle school and high school. We'll wait and see. I'll have an update in the next year or so. But the fact of the matter is that I don't know if we're going to have school tomorrow. That's a good question. We'll see how the superintendents play into this later on today. I think a lot of them will have probably an update by maybe lunchtime or maybe before dinner time here tonight. Of course, tomorrow we will end up above freezing. So all day long will be above freezing. We'll have a few passing showers here. Then the cold settles in. Now, there will be some question marks about early Wednesday morning, okay? Early Wednesday morning, we could have some spots of freezing fog, or maybe some issues where we could have, maybe some slick spots, some bridges, overpasses, things of that nature here early on your Wednesday morning. We'll get some sunshine late in the day, but those clouds may be a little bit more stubborn here across the Mid-South going into your Wednesday. So we'll be watching that closely. Yes, there is a dip in temperatures that comes along with that frontal boundary from a high near 50 on Tuesday with the rain showers, 30s for highs on Wednesday. We'll have a pretty cold night Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. We'll drop down to about 22 degrees here across the Mid-South. But notice again, not terrible. Once we get past that, we go into your Friday and Saturday with lows in the 30s. Here's a look at that extended forecast. And again, there's some great stuff packed into this extended forecast, okay? Got to get past these icy roads this morning. A high near 50 degrees. Not a bad looking way to get through your Monday here across the Mid-South. 50 the high temperature going into your Tuesday. Yes, off and on chances for rain. 38 though on Wednesday. I think a few spots may be able to tag 40 on Wednesday, just depending on if we can clear the clouds out early enough. That's the question. 22 when you wake up early on Thursday morning to a 44, which again will still feel kind of warm when you look at the grand scheme of things. I think we're all going to be wearing shorts come Friday just because it's the first day that we hit 60 or above. And I don't know, like 3 weeks time. So it'll be nice to enjoy that. There is another front that comes swinging through here Friday and Saturday. That'll knock the numbers back a couple of notches. Upper 40s, low 50s on Saturday. Mid 50s to return on Super Bowl Sunday. And then the upper 50s and low 60s expected as we head towards the extended period. Now, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of people who are asking, like, is there another storm system that's coming down the pipeline? Okay, let me stand right here on this, what is it, February the 2nd. If you go back 2 weeks ago, I was standing right here at the same time, and we were talking about a system that could move in here this past weekend. That did pass past us. We missed it because guess what? That became 1.5 feet of snow in parts of North Carolina, okay? So thankfully we missed that system, okay? There is a signal of a system out here in the extended range, out here by, Valentine's Day. It's really hard to get snow at 60 degrees. And the general trend is above average, heading towards the middle portion of the month of February. Let's hope that that's the case. I hope that we continue an upward trend on our temperatures and stay on the upward trend. Things can change. Don't get me wrong. There is still a lot of variability in the forecast. There has been a lot of topsy-turviness, but when you have a very amplified pattern like we have had over the last couple of weeks, where you have a big trough axis, the cold air diving across the eastern United States, the warmer air out west, it's hard to, you can see when the pattern does make a flip, and right now the pattern's flipping towards a warmer note for us, at least for now, in that extended range. Let's hope that it stays in that same vein as we head through the next couple of days, because man, oh man, I tell you what, 60 sounds fantastic coming up on Friday with a fair amount of sunshine.
I'm with you 1,000%. And just looking at that 10-day forecast, everything looks fantastic except for that Tuesday into Wednesday. Anything we should be concerned about there?
Like I said, we've got questions on the moisture getting out of here in time. I think the rain ends in time. The question is, does the lingering moisture get out of here? So that's why I'm thinking that there could be some patchy areas of black ice on Wednesday morning. And on top of that, maybe some freezing fog. That is a possibility with temperatures right around freezing to start off Wednesday morning, only managing a high of 38 that afternoon. 22 early Thursday, 44 by the afternoon hour. So we do at least quickly start the rebound process heading through that mid to latter portion of the week. But yeah, you get a gulch here that you'll have to claw your way out of. And there's even a little dip, a little valley heading towards the weekend. But even with that being said, it's not terrible heading towards Super Bowl Sunday, which looks to be pretty nice. I think that if you got a Super Bowl party planned out on Sunday, you're in good shape, okay? So hopefully everybody by that point has power as well. That's the other thing. We still have a lot of people without power, especially across North Mississippi and parts of West Tennessee as well, but mostly North Mississippi. We still have Tipp and Benton counties with almost 60% of their counties still without power a week after the storm.
All right, meteorologist Patrick Ellis starting us off on a Monday. Patrick, thank you.
No problem.
And let's now go ahead and look once again at our High 5 camera in Midtown Memphis, where it is a chilly 25 degrees as you get up on this Monday morning. You can still see the sun, the moon there off in the distance as the sun gets ready to rise. Another shot from our High 5 camera downtown there. Just a beautiful sky. We're going to see a lot of sunshine today. And as you heard from Patrick, it's going to be a high of 50 degrees. Welcome news on a Monday. We'll be talking all about it later this morning throughout the Action News 5 digital desk. Okay, so we mentioned that February is Heart Month, and we're going to be talking about heart disease, the #1 killer of adult men and women, and ways to prevent it. We're also going to be talking about this report that came out Friday for all those sports fans, in particular Grizzlies fans out there, of the Smith family buying the Memphis Grizzlies. Well, that report came out Friday night. We're going to be talking with the author of that report, and he's going to join us on the digital desk to talk more about the viability of actually the Smith family buying the Grizzlies. We'll be talking about that and much more on the Action News 5 digital desk. But right now I want to take a short 60-second break. We're back with more news on Action News 5's digital desk. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Well, one of the biggest goals of the new year for so many of us is to have better fitness, better health, right? That's what so many people want in the new year. And on the Action News 5 Digital Desk, we have right now a local fitness trainer, a personal trainer, a fitness guru, a studio leader at Lifetime Fitness in Collierville, Samantha Pennington, joining us on the digital desk to talk about some of those new trends in fitness as we approach 2026. Samantha, where should we start when it comes to some of the new trends that you are seeing in the world of fitness? Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, so I'm partaking in a lot of those trends, I feel like right now. Right now, I see a lot of run clubs, so everyone's getting into the running, as well as Pilates and strength training. So I see those being our top fitness trends for 2025 and also moving into 2026.
So tell me about, because our audience they've probably have heard about Pilates. What is that exactly?
So Pilates, we offer here at Lifetime, we have our Reformers Pilates, which you're using a machine. And then we also provide mat Pilates. Here at Lifetime, we offer both, and we're actually the largest provider in the States. Lifetime is. So what we offer here is mat Pilates. You work on those smaller muscle groups, your ankles, your calves, you've got the shoulders, the core as well. We have heated options and we have non-heated options. Basically working for stability, balance, that's what we can find in Pilates. But the Reformer can go either way. You're on a machine, so it can be for the older demographic if they need more assistance in gaining connection in those little muscle groups, whether it's the core or the ankles, to help prevent any falling or anything like that. And then you have the other side where people are saying the hot moms or the younger kids are getting into the heated classes because it's an all-around great conditioning workout as well as core strengthening.
So we know, Samantha, that technology and AI is changing almost everything that we do. In the world of fitness, where are you seeing technology or AI influencing different things as we approach 2026?
Yeah, I think it's a positive and a negative, you could say, for us fitness professionals. We see the positive of it helps us do our job a little bit more. And I also see as a positive for others that aren't trainers or have that certification in anatomy and things like that. Because, and I will say, I've used it myself a couple times, and so has my family. But if you're looking to really jumpstart your fitness goals, or maybe you're trying to get into running, it's a great tool to just automatically get a great plan for you. That's a good base. But the con I see is, as fitness professionals, well, here at Lifetime, we're called dynamic personal trainers. So that word dynamic, we're able to be one-on-one with you. We're able to see things you may not feel in your body while doing a squat or while you're running. So we can see AI being a positive way to get everyone in the world moving and living a healthy way of life and jump-starting that. But I also see it as a negative, because us as trainers truly believe that hands-on work can add value to your fitness journey. And I will say myself, as a trainer, I do have a trainer as well to keep me accountable, to see things in my body I'm not able to feel or see on my own. So it's great to use AI for different things. Absolutely.
That's good to hear, and it's always something that people are concerned about. But you know, you've been in this world for a while now, and it feels like every time the new year happens, the gym is packed. Tons of people working on their fitness goals. But then by about February, March, the place is empty because people just, they stop going. How do we make sure we get over that hump and we continue to push on throughout the year so it's not just a few weeks or a few months in the gym?
Yeah, so it's actually funny you say that. There's an actual day that is National Ditch Your Resolutions Day. So we always joke around that in our group fitness classes. But one of the main things I feel like to really push through those New Year's resolutions and those goals you have in mind is Lifetime here. We offer as much help and accountability as you can think of. As a new member, you get a goal setting session. So, kicking off the new year with meeting with a personal trainer for a complimentary goal setting session to talk about your nutrition, your daily habits. We do year round almost 3 to 4 habit training workouts throughout Lifetime. So also our group fitness classes, we have about 130 classes a week. They go from Pilates, strength training, cardio. And when I think you get into those group fitness, social, community vibe classes, it's a lot easier to hold on to your fitness goals. That you set in the new year. But good thing is you don't always have to set your goals in the new year. People just tend to do that because it's a great time to have a fresh start. But here at Lifetime, we encourage a healthy way of life all the time. And so we try and implement that in everything we do in every part of our departments.
I could see how those group classes are so much a part of, and they're very popular, so much a part of the routine. Is that what's called social fitness? I understand social fitness is kind of it's growing in popularity.
Yeah. You see more this year anyway. I've seen on social media more kids are going to run clubs, which we hosted a run club this year in Joy of St. Jude half or marathon weekend. Actually ran myself, and I can say that getting up on a Saturday to run those long miles that you're preparing for that half marathon, it's way more fun with a group of people, as well as our group fitness classes. Sometimes they can come as a club, I guess you could say. We have DJs comes to our classes sometimes. So the social fitness can really be a motivator in having accountability and friends. And honestly, a healthy way of life should be something that is fun. We should never be dreading coming to the gym. It's a privilege, whether that looks like lifting weights on the fitness floor or getting into a group fitness class where you're listening to wonderful music. You've got great entertainment from our performers here. It's just an all around great vibe, and I think that's where fitness falls short. Is we think of it as I have to do this, but we get to move our bodies, and we can do it in so many fun ways.
Samantha, this has been great, a great discussion. One thing, there are so many different pitfalls. Can you really just help us with maybe the biggest obstacle that people have to overcome in the new year when it comes to fitness, or the biggest obstacles you see people dealing with that a lot of times they can't overcome if they're new to fitness and healthy lifestyles?
So I think one major thing, and I get this a lot as I try and drive more members into my classes, or just in general, getting people to come to classes, is they feel like they have to be at a certain point in their fitness journey to be successful. And the best part about fitness is if you're working with a dynamic personal trainer or you're attending a class or whatever it might be, it's we want you to we want to meet you where you're at, basically. I don't want everyone to think that you have to be in a certain weight or certain year of working out, but just being who you are, come in, let us help you get to where you want to be, and get over the fact of you have to be somewhere certain to get started in any type of fitness journey. We meet you where you're at. So that's one thing I would 100% love to plug is just be confident and come in and let's just get some help, right? So yeah.
Samantha Pennington, Lifetime Fitness in Collierville, joining us on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Thank you so much for the info. Great discussion, great dialogue, and we look forward to the next time you can come on the Digital Desk. Samantha, thank you.
Yeah,
Happy holidays.
thank you, Andrew. See you in the club.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Do you know what the #1 killer of adults is? #1 killer, okay, of adults worldwide, especially here in the Mid-South, is heart disease. Yeah, heart disease. Men, women, it doesn't matter. Heart disease is such a prevalent issue, and there are various organizations that are trying to do everything they can to prevent heart disease in Americans and Mid-Southerners. In fact, the leading organization is the American Heart Association. They are doing everything they can to fight heart disease and stroke. I'm joined now on the Action News 5 digital desk by Lauren Goff. She is director of the Mid-South American Heart Association, and one of the biggest and largest fundraisers of the year is just right around the corner, just a few short weeks away. Lauren, good morning to you. So tell me about the American Heart Association and the effort to fight heart disease, because I know this is a round-the-year issue for so many people who work so hard with the American Heart Association. Good morning.
Good morning. So it's very prevalent, and one of the ways that we all, through some of our really great events that we have going on. So we have our Mid-South Heart Ball that'll be happening next Saturday at the Peabody, February 7th. And we are so excited. This is a really, really great event that's going to bring together Memphis community leaders, survivors, and supporters of the American Heart Association. It really is such a powerful and fun evening that we have the opportunity to saves and raising funds to fight heart disease and stroke.
Yeah, I don't know if your connection is all that great. We missed you a little bit there, but you were talking about the Heart Ball, which we know and love, and I'm fortunate enough to be a part of the Heart Ball the last 10 years or so. It's fantastic each and every year, and I'm going to be a part of it this year. Tell me what's so significant about the Heart Ball, because I know it's the biggest fundraiser for the American Heart Association, right?
Yes, sorry about that with the internet. So the Heart Ball will be taking place next Saturday at the Peabody. Like I said, it's just a really powerful evening where we're going to celebrate life saves and raising this year. So blessed and honored to be recognizing Duncan Williams with our John and Leslie Daniel Living Heart. Is being celebrated for his leadership, his generosity, and the lasting impact on the health and well-being of Memphis. And we're so excited to have you enjoy emceeing our program again this year.
I'm looking forward to it, Lauren, as I do each and every year. It's such a great event. And, you mentioned the Living Heart Award honoring Duncan Williams. There's always a very emotional tone at a certain point of the evening. There's a lot of fun. It's great to see some old friends and familiar faces. But then there's also a moment where you really kind of realize how important the work is with the American Heart Association and how important it is to stop heart disease. Can you tell us a little bit more about why Duncan Williams is being honored with the Living Heart Award and how important this event is to the work you guys do each and every year?
Yeah, so Duncan, as many know, he is just incredible with his leadership, his generosity. He is truly just making such an impact and wants to make Memphis better and leave it better than he found it. And so that is exactly why we're honoring him, is so that we can celebrate all the impact that he's making in Memphis. As you said at the beginning, heart disease is the leading cause of death and among women, and many don't recognize their personal risk. And so coming up in February is Heart Month. And so we have some really great ways that we can raise that awareness and spread that awareness for heart disease so that people understand their risk. Because unfortunately, nearly 350,000 cardiac arrests happen outside of the hospital each year, and immediate action can mean the difference between life and death in those situations.
100%, Lauren. I couldn't agree with you more. Anything else we want to touch on when it comes to the Heart Ball, the American Heart Association, some of the stats and facts and figures that you just mentioned? Anything else? Because heart disease is just so prevalent in the Mid-South for women and for men.
Yes. So, like I said, February is Heart Month. So, specifically on February 6th is National Wear Red Day. I got a little bit of a jump start on that today. So, we want to see everyone wearing their red on February 6th to raise that awareness, but then also for the whole month of February, going red to learn more about their numbers, recognizing symptoms, and taking prevention seriously. So, like I said, we're inviting everyone to go red. We're going to have buildings going red, company and business leaders wearing red. And it's just a really great way to raise awareness because, like I said, research, education, prevention work funded through events like the Heart Ball directly support healthier outcomes for the Mid-South.
Couldn't agree more. Lauren Goff joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk with the Mid-South chapter of the American Heart Association. Thank you so much for sharing a few minutes with us to talk about what you guys are doing as an organization, as a chapter, and we appreciate your work 365 days out of the year, Lauren. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 digital desk. There is a severe blood shortage, and the American Red Cross is calling on all kinds of people to roll up their sleeves and donate blood in the new year to help prevent delays in medical care for so many hospital patients across our area and across the country. I'm joined now on the Action News 5 digital desk by Dr. Courtney Lawrence. She is Division Chief Medical Officer at the American Red Cross. Courtney, good morning to you. Tell me how bad the shortage is of blood.
Good morning. So, as many people know, the Red Cross works continuously and tirelessly throughout the year to collect blood from generous blood donors so that we have an adequate national blood supply to meet the needs of our hospitals across the countries. Unfortunately, due to multiple circumstances, the hospital demand has really outpaced our ability to collect as much as we would normally like to feel secure in having the inventory to meet hospital needs. And it's decreased our inventory by a little bit more than a third.
You know, we have this winter weather that's certainly affecting us here in the Memphis area. Of course, it's affecting so many other states across the country. How has that affected the blood shortage?
So we definitely expect that every year the winter months are going to pose some unique challenges in terms of holding our blood drives. But this year has really been exceptional. In the month of December, we saw 3 times the number of blood drives that were shortened or closed due to winter impact. And just in this weekend alone, due to Fern and the subsequent ice and snow, we saw about 350 blood drives located between Oklahoma and Maine that had to be canceled. And that really decreased our blood and platelet donations that we expected by about 10,000 units that were anticipated to go to patients in need.
You know, a lot of people hear about blood shortages, but it really does have an impact, especially at so many hospitals across the country. Can you talk a little bit about the impact when there is this kind of blood shortage, Courtney?
Sure. In my role at Red Cross, I partner very closely with hospitals and healthcare providers, and we're trying to help one another be the best stewards of our valuable blood donations. But those stewardship efforts can really only go so far. So when we just simply don't have enough blood on the shelf to meet all of the anticipated patient needs, healthcare providers have to make really difficult decisions, and patients are the ones who feel consequences. We definitely know that there are people who need need continuous blood transfusions, maybe because they have a blood disorder like sickle cell disease, and they really rely on blood transfusions throughout the year to be able to go out and live their lives. But also we know that emergencies happen and surges can occur. So we all hope that we won't need a blood transfusion, but the reality is any one of us could experience an emergency on any given day where we need a blood transfusion to save our lives, and we hope that blood is available for us.
So, Courtney, I understand there's a special gift for people who like to donate blood this time of year. Tell me more.
Sure. So anyone who donates blood or platelets between now and the end of February, so February 28th, will receive a $20 e-gift card to a merchant of their choice, which I think is a nice thank you to our blood donors who generously come in and roll up a sleeve. But there are also other benefits to blood donation, and one of them is that we do a little mini physical for every blood donor who comes in to donate blood, where we get their heart rate, their temperature, their blood pressure, their hemoglobin level. And that information is made available back to those donors either through the Red Cross Blood Donor app or on redcrossblood.org in their donor account, so that they have access to that important healthcare information and that can empower their own health decision making.
Okay, quickly now, how can people donate if they see this and they want to give some blood? What's the best way to do that, most efficient way?
The easiest way to do that is to look for an appointment at a blood drive closest to you, and that can be done through redcrossblood.org. Looking in, putting in your zip code, finding that blood drive, scheduling an appointment, and then we just recommend that the night before your donation, you get a good night's sleep, you eat a healthy meal before you come in to donate, don't fast for your blood donation, and make sure that you drink plenty of water so that you're well hydrated and that you recover easily and well from the donation process.
Okay, Dr. Courtney Lawrence with the American Red Cross, we appreciate your time. Thank you for highlighting the issues involved with this severe blood shortage right now and best ways and methods to get that blood supply and offer a donation. We appreciate your time. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. 7:35 is the time on your Monday morning. Taking a live look outside from our High 5 camera in downtown Memphis. 25 degrees as you get up and get going on this work week. It's certainly something we're going to be watching here. There's another shot from our High 5 camera in Midtown Memphis, outside of our studios here at 1960 Union Avenue. We'll be talking more about the forecast in just a little bit. I'm Andrew Douglas, going to give you some of the top stories we are following at this hour. We begin in Holly Springs, Mississippi, where the city's utility department wants to remind customers that a boil water advisory remains in place. In a post on the utility department's Facebook page, the mayor says winter weather forced the health department to remain closed last week. The boil water notice will remain in place until further notice. They say people should continue to boil all tap water used for drinking, cooking, food preparation until this notice is lifted. Let's talk about the Mississippi Department of Transportation now. It is providing an update on road conditions in the northern part of the state. It says 14 counties still reporting ice on roads and bridges. Those counties include Alcorn, Benton, Bolivar, Coahoma, DeSoto, Lafayette, LaFleur, Marshall, Panola, Quitman, Tallahatchie, Tate, Tippah, and Tunica counties. MDOT crews still working to clear the ice, asking drivers to avoid the roads unless it is absolutely necessary. Ole Miss and most other Mid-South schools and universities will not have classes this week. Ole Miss will not reopen until February 9th. Student Union remains as a warming center for students and employees. Showers are available at the Turner Center. Slowly, parts of the campus and the city of Oxford are getting power back on. The Blends Bowl in the Student Union, along with several food trucks, are now open, giving it another option for food aside from the Rebel Market and Dish. Well, the ice may be thawing, but there are still tens of thousands in North Mississippi without power. Oxford Utilities providing updates to its customers. Mayor Robin Tannehill announced those outages are down to a little more than 100 homes and businesses. She also says water has been restored to all City of Oxford customers. Oxford Utilities says crews are spread out across the city working on service reconnections. Let's get an update now from Governor Tate Reeves. 2 more deaths have been reported in Mississippi. That brings the statewide death toll in Mississippi due to this winter storm to 23. The governor says a total of 662 requests for assistance have been submitted by 41 counties while the state deploys both personnel and resources to areas affected. We're also talking about the deaths from the winter storm in Tennessee, where the Emergency Management Agency says the death toll is at 23 as well in Tennessee. According to the Tennessee Health Department, 6 deaths are reported in Shelby County. Other deaths in West Tennessee include Fayette, Hardin, Haywood, Obion counties. In Davidson County, that's Middle Tennessee, Nashville area, one of the victims was found in his apartment. A generator was running near his bed. All of the weather-related deaths in Davidson County have been from either carbon monoxide poisoning or from falls due to the ice. And let's talk about FEMA now, because state efforts to bring relief and recovery from the winter storm have received a boost from the federal government. FEMA now says close to $4 million in emergency funding to both Mississippi and Tennessee. This move can be used for all kinds of different things: generators for high priority targets like hospitals and water systems, equipment to clear debris, emergency supplies like water, food, and blankets as well. Let's go now to a story that we were following all weekend long. These 2 boys that fell in icy cold water in Southwest Lake Apartments on Friday night. A 12-year-old and a 7-year-old fell in the icy waters. The 12-year-old has been released from the hospital. The 7-year-old is still in critical condition in the hospital. Witnesses say people living there tried to help, but they were helpless until a deputy dove into the freezing waters and rescued those boys. Chief Anthony Buckner says they are asking parents to warn their kids about walking on bodies of water that appear frozen but actually are extremely dangerous. West Memphis, Arkansas now. The city of West Memphis trying to move into phase 2 of the Operation Clear Path plan. The city is asking people to move their cars off neighborhood streets to allow city plows to clear the roads faster. They say they're also asking crews to look at extended hours in order to clear roads as quickly as possible. You can see a full list of roads included in this operation on extranews5.com. Let's talk now about this man who's been arrested for stealing an ambulance where he was a patient. According to Memphis police, just before noon Saturday, private ambulance picked up this man, James Shorter, from St. Francis Hospital. EMTs were advised that Shorter suffered from multiple mental health conditions. At some point during the ride, Shorter escaped from his buckle guards, took control of the ambulance. Police say the ambulance was recovered on West Hall. He's facing multiple charges, including intentionally evading arrest and reckless driving. Check out these pictures from East Memphis here, where the former Houston restaurant is being demolished. Last fall, the restaurant was sold to a new owner. A demolition permit was granted nearly 1 month later. The restaurant closed suddenly and permanently in December of 24. It's unclear what plans are in the works for the property. Team USA arriving in Italy and repping the red, white, and blue. As you heard, they arrived to applause and then greeted by messages from friends and family, resulting in a lot of smiles. Team USA, made up of more than 230 athletes. It's the largest ever USA Winter Olympic team. All right, the Grizzlies back in action tonight. They will host their second game against the Minnesota Grizzlies. This is one of 3 games you can exchange your tickets if you were not able to attend last Wednesday's game against Charlotte. This game will be streamed on Peacock. Tip-off set for 6 o'clock tonight. We're going to take a short break. We're back in 60 seconds with your full forecast.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk here on a Monday morning. Let's look back at the month of January. It's hard to believe that after the last 2 weeks of dealing with freezing cold temperatures, ice and snow all across the region, that the beginning of the month started off with 70s. Yes, we had a week where we were 60s and 70s on a daily basis. The warmest day back on January the 8th at 73 degrees. The coldest day on January the 26th, where we only managed a high of 20 degrees. And that had full sunshine that day, by the way. Needless to say, though, we have had a huge topsy-turvy couple of weeks here across the Mid-South. The vast majority of the month of January, though, falling below average. And with that being said, even this morning, we're still dealing with slick and icy roadways, especially on side and neighborhood roads. You know the drill at this point. Add some time, exercise caution to get out there here today, because after today, we should be in better shape in theory, because we'll have a couple of hours here, long period of time where we're going to be above freezing. 50 the high temperature for today, a southwest wind coming in 5 to 10 miles per hour, 40 tonight. So that means that we won't even drop below freezing here in the city of Memphis. So that continues a melting process as clouds begin to thicken. There may be a shower or two late, but I think that the better chances for rain will start moving in here as we get closer to like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Continue throughout much of the morning and early afternoon hours, topping out upper 40s near 50 degrees. A lot of the rain coming to an end as we get closer to the evening drive home, but there will still be some sporadic showers here and there. Behind that system, yeah, we do turn cooler. 38 the high temperature on Wednesday, 44 on Thursday, but the general trends here in the extended forecast, our average high is 53, by the way. Below average temperatures start to pull away from us. Warmer than average temperatures as a more pronounced ridging, which means usually warmer temperature starts to emerge as we head towards the mid portion of the month. That is good news for us. Most of the colder air will get kind of locked up to the New England states, but it does look for us generally a bit warmer. I think everybody can get behind that after this long stretch of extremely cold weather here across the Mid-South. So for today, we'll go for a high temperature of about 50 degrees. Beautiful day across the Mid-South with a ton of sunshine. Once we get past 9, 10 o'clock, we'll get above freezing, and we will stay above freezing for the better part of 36 hours, because behind this system, yeah, we do drop back closer to freezing early on Wednesday morning. Tuesday does feature the opportunities for rain. We'll time it out with our first alert futurecast. More scattered showers to develop, especially through mid-morning. Maybe a few pockets of heavier rain, and I can't rule it out that maybe a random sleet pellet mixing in, but mostly this will just be a plain Jane rain event here across the Mid-South. Notice the colder air where snow falling across portions of Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. It stays north of the Ohio River for the most part. So again, this will be just rainfall for us. That's lunchtime. Most of the rain moving out towards Middle Tennessee, Northeast Mississippi, Northwest Alabama, continues to push eastward. We'll still have some lingering showers on the backside of it as we see the clouds still hanging on tough. Now, there's some question marks here about ultimately how this will come and go and get out of here, because the lower clouds may linger. And with temperatures that will be near freezing by early on Wednesday morning, there's some question marks that we'll be able to get all the moisture out. And I just don't think that that's going to be the case. So a couple scenarios could play out. One, we just end up with a lot of clouds early on Wednesday morning that are going to be a little bit more stubborn to break up. Two, freezing fog is a concern early on Wednesday morning, as we'll drop down again here in the city close to freezing, but there could be some spots that will be down into the upper 20s. And if we don't have that moisture able to evaporate back into the atmosphere, there's a question mark if we could still have some slick spots as bridges and overpasses or non-treated roadways. Let's say it like that, because a lot of the roadways are still treated. There could still be some slick spots early on Wednesday morning. 22 when we wake up early on Thursday. After a start at 22, we'll make a run for 44. Near 60 come Friday. Super Bowl weekend looks great. 52 on Saturday. We take a little downward trend here. It's not terrible. 56 on Sunday, and look upper 50s and low 60s heading into next week. And I think everybody will get behind that, be happy about it. Above average temperatures for the first time in several weeks here across the Mid-South, but we still have a couple of instances and impacts to get past. One, the icy side and neighborhood roads here today, and then the rain that comes in here before a brief shot of Canadian air moves in here by Wednesday.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. You have probably heard a lot about the food pyramid and the changes recently, just a few weeks ago. It really no longer demonizes healthy fats out there. It offers some real solid options, healthier options for people who are trying to eat healthier this year in 2026 and beyond. Let's bring in researcher and the dean of the College of Health Sciences at the University of Memphis. I'm joined on the Action News 5 Digital Desk by Rick Bloomer. He is joining us once again. And Rick, always good to have you here on the Digital Desk and to talk about this pyramid that I'm going to show you in just a moment here. It looks very different from what we're used to. Explain what we're looking at first and foremost. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. Thanks again for having me on to talk about this important topic. You're right, drastic change, much needed. I was very excited to see what came out from the government with regards to this a couple weeks ago. Boy, Andrew, we are in a real mess health-wise in the United States. We have about 7 out of 10 individuals, or 70%, who are either obese or overweight. About 35% of those are obese. And in Memphis, Tennessee, 45% of adults are obese, not just overweight, but obese with a BMI of 30 kilogram meters squared or higher. About 50% of adults across the U.S. have diabetes or pre-diabetes, in addition to things like heart disease, hypertension, stroke, certain forms of cancer that we know are mediated largely by diet. So lifestyle disease is rampant, and this is one way to address that.
Yes, I would wholeheartedly agree, Rick. And you know, it's something where I talk to a lot of people about a lot of different things. And one of the things during the last election cycle was about the health of this country and our food supply. And, you know, that's always been a big issue for so many people. And so is this pyramid, I guess, the start of something different, a shift, if you will?
Yeah, I think the reality is there are many things, of course, that lead to some of those issues I talked about earlier with regards to lifestyle, these physical activity, structured exercise, regular quality nightly sleep, stress reduction, and then, of course, the food that is going into the person's body on a regular basis. So this is one way to address it. It's not the only way, but it is one. We do, of course, need more education. The reality is only probably about 15 to 40% of people pay any attention to dietary guidelines that are put forth by their government. That's what the evidence would support. So we're not certain as to how many individuals are simply changing what they're doing based on the guidelines, but I think this is a good start. We need to do more education. We need to teach people what this really means. And then more importantly, how do they incorporate it into their trips to the grocery store and in the kitchen at home?
Okay, so let's look at the graphic one more time here, the dietary guidelines for Americans, and talk us through what we're looking at.
Yeah, so the main shift is the focus is what I like is eat real food. I like the tagline, eat real food. What they're trying to do is they're trying to steer people away from eating highly processed foods and also trying to steer people away from eating foods that have lots of added sugar. So you can see at the top here, their main focus is a diet that consists primarily of proteins. And those would be generally, you see the steak there, but of course, lean meat, you see the turkey as well. I would generally recommend lean cuts of turkey, of red meat, and then of chicken, fish, things of that sort. And then lots of fruits and vegetables, healthy oils, nuts, and seeds. Those would be essentially the basics in the program. And then relatively sparingly with the starchy carbohydrate. Adding beans and things of that sort, I think, are favorable as well. They didn't put a lot of emphasis on that. I think that's one of the things they could have done a little bit better of a job at, is adding beans and then making specific recommendations for dietary fiber. But the reality is, in terms of adopting the approach, shop the perimeter of the grocery store. When you go into the store, you stay around the edges, you get your vegetables, your fruits, your lean cuts of meat, your dairy, and then very sparingly in the aisles. And that would be basically frozen fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, and healthy oils, and then possibly quinoa, maybe some oats, some barley, some brown rice, things of that sort. If people were to do that, they'd have a very healthy diet.
I appreciate that. Appreciate you kind of outlining what that pyramid looked like and some of the other issues involved. Something else I wanted to bring up with you, Rick, is, so I take family trips from time to time throughout the year. And when we go overseas, particularly Europe, we, for some reason, the food just feels and tastes fresher or healthier because when we come back to the U.S., I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's glyphosate. I think I'm saying that right. But there's things in the food system here that I feel like hold us back as a country of having all natural, wonderful food that we can see in other countries because some things are outlaws in other countries that should be outlawed here. Can you help me out with this? I'm still puzzled by it.
Well, you're exactly right. There are certain things that are not allowed overseas in certain areas, and they are allowed here as additives in food. So a lot of times individuals say, boy, I eat pasta here in the States and I feel bloated afterwards. But when I go overseas and I'm in Europe, I have pasta, same quantity seemingly, and I just feel fine. So something must be different. There are some things that are different. I think we've gotten into an environment, a culture of absolute convenience. So whatever generally tastes good and it's easy and it's relatively inexpensive, I'm going to try to fill myself up with that. But the goal in feeding should never be to fill yourself up. It should be to fuel yourself with the appropriate nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, essential fatty acids, things of that sort. Something people need to remember, there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. So the plan that focuses primarily on the lean meats and some dairy, fruits and vegetables, that's a really good plan for most people. Frankly, it's not that unique. Individuals that pay very close attention to their physique and their overall health and performance, this is the plan many of us have been doing for years and years. It's just trying to get the average individual to adopt such a plan. And I think as a country, we'd be much healthier if we were to do so.
Okay, so let's dial it down to Memphians, Mid-Southerners. We have thousands that watch us each and every morning here on the digital desk. What is their biggest takeaway from not just the pyramid and the new food pyramid, but also daily habits? We all want to be healthier for 2026 and beyond. Where do we begin?
I think first and foremost, people need to look carefully, not just at that picture that you showed, but go to the website. There's a lot more detail in terms of breaking it down, what that looks like in terms of serving sizes, things of that nature. They've done, I think, a pretty good job at putting that together. And then make a decision. Do I really want to make a change? Because the reality is someone can look at this thing and pay zero attention to it. And the reality is a lot of people probably will do just that. But those that are really saying, I'm one of those 7 out of 10 who are overweight or obese. I'm one of those 1 and 2 who are diabetic or pre-diabetic, and I'm ready to make a change. Individuals need to put a plan together, ideally sit down with a registered licensed dietitian, nutritionist who is specifically trained to work with people on their dietary programs, writing plans out, and then frankly, building it into a lifestyle approach, not a short-term diet. You want something that's going to last long-term and that you could actually say, I could do this for the rest of my life. Within reason, you don't have to be perfect. We're not looking for perfection, but you do need to make changes if you find yourself falling in line with one of those statistics that I mentioned earlier.
A lot of people, and I'll let you go after this, a lot of people talk about the Mediterranean diet as the best tasting diet with the best health benefits. Would you agree to that? And final comments on anything else you want to mention?
I wouldn't. So I would say that for many individuals, that's a quality diet. But the reality is anytime someone tells you this is the best diet for everyone, you need to be very skeptical of that. Because different diet programs, different meal plans and feeding patterns work differently for different individuals based on a number of factors. We've done a lot of studies in our lab showing that a very high carbohydrate diet, but a very purified carbohydrate diet works exceptionally well for metabolic health. And that's very different than what the new food pyramid lays out. However, for a lot of individuals, I think consuming too much carbohydrate, especially in processed form, especially with a lot of added ingredients, is highly problematic. So individuals really need to do a little bit of homework and then some experimentation on their own to figure out what's going to work best for them and also with their lifestyle.
Okay, researcher and dean at the College of Health and Sciences, Rick Bloomer, joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. We appreciate the deep dive on the food pyramid, its new guidelines, and what else people should be thinking about when they're trying to get healthier in 2026. We appreciate your time as always, Rick. Thanks so much for joining us. Harbinger, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay, great. We're about 30 seconds away. Just wanted to say hello and appreciate you taking a few minutes. Thank you.
Sure. What's your name?
My name is Andrew Douglas.
Okay, I'm Harbinder Singh. Nice to meet you.
Okay, appreciate it. Talk to you in a second, okay?
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 digital desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. Let's talk about the relationship between high blood sugar and heart disease. To talk more about this issue, I'm joined on the Action News 5 digital desk by Dr. Harbinger Singh. He is a cardiovascular and thoracic surgeon with St. Francis Hospital. Harbinger, thank you so much for joining us. So tell me a little bit about the direct correlation between high blood sugar and heart disease. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. Yeah, there's definitely a correlation of high blood sugar and vascular disease, cardiac disease, and also all the vessels in the body. Chronically elevated blood sugar will cause irregular changes in the vascular system, and eventually, over time, the amount of blood flow that comes through these vessels that brings the vital oxygen and nutrients will be diminished. And this will cause problems with the organs they supply or the muscles they supply, et cetera.
So, for all of those people out there, how do we, one, measure blood sugar, and two, how do we bring it down?
Well, people who have diabetes or at risk for diabetes, or even the general public, should see a primary care doctor regularly. Those that are at risk for diabetes or have type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes should see more often. The labs that are generally checked on the blood panel include the fasting blood sugar, which reflects the short-term level of your blood glucose, the hemoglobin A1C, which reflects a 3-month period of your overall blood glucose level. And you can even check fasting insulin resistance, which is associated with type 2 diabetes. So you can check fasting insulin levels.
Right. So how do we do that?
Well, your primary care doctor will order these labs. Diabetics should be going every 3 to 6 months. The A1C will reflect how you've been handling your blood sugar over the last 3 months. The fasting blood sugar is just you don't eat the night before, after midnight, get your blood drawn in the morning and kind of see where your blood sugar ran overnight and into the morning. And then fasting insulin levels is the same thing that you would fast, get your blood drawn. If your circulating free insulin levels are high, that means you have what's called insulin resistance and you're a type 2 diabetic and you're not efficiently managing your blood sugar.
What do you see with your practice where people make the biggest mistakes when it comes to blood sugar and this relationship between blood sugar and heart disease?
Well, I think there are a number of factors. People say they may eat healthy, but they may have trouble with portion control. Certainly their food choices. Like your previous guest mentioned, you want to avoid the simple carbohydrates, which are seen in refined foods like cakes, pastries, white bread, pasta, etc. Complex carbohydrates are fine, and those are mostly seen in vegetables. So you would like to lean towards fiber and lean protein. So people make dietary changes that aren't in their favor. They also eat fried foods, or the way they prepare the food can make a difference. And I think a lot of people need to increase their activity levels. It's recommended you have 150 minutes of moderate activity or exercise per week.
All good advice. I mean, portion control, eat more fruits and vegetables for fiber, more activity. What else can we do, doctor?
You have to control your weight, especially for type 2 diabetics. And portion control, food choices, and activity all tie into that. The one thing we can't control is our genetics, but all these other factors are lifestyle factors that we can control.
Anything else you want to mention before we let you go? Perhaps signs, symptoms, warning signs, that sort of thing?
Yeah, people do develop some signs and symptoms they may not recognize. They're frequently much more thirsty. They urinate a lot more frequently. Increased fatigue, headaches, blurred vision. These can all be signs that your blood sugar is not in control. Also, wound healing. If you develop a small injury and it takes a long time to heal, diabetes affects our immune system and our ability to heal. So those may be signs.
Very good. All right. All good information here. Final thoughts before we let you go.
Well, it's a prevalent disease in our society. 10% of people have it. The incidence is increasing, and it really needs to be on our radar for everyone to keep track of your blood sugar and see your primary care doctor regularly.
All right, Dr. Harbinder Singh, we appreciate you joining us on the digital desk. Appreciate these factoids that you're telling us about when it comes to blood sugar, blood control, and ways to prevent heart disease. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, another live look from our High Five camera as we go to break on this Monday, a chilly one. 28 degrees, 8:05. We're back in 60 seconds.
What do you think? Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, very straightforward.
Yeah.
He was mispronouncing my name. And then they wrote at the bottom, Sergiun.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk here on a Monday morning. Let's look back at the month of January. It's hard to believe that after the last 2 weeks of dealing with freezing cold temperatures, ice and snow all across the region, that the beginning of the month started off with 70s. Yes, we had a week where we were 60s and 70s on a daily basis. The warmest day back on January the 8th at 73 degrees. The coldest day on January the 26th. Where we only managed a high of 20 degrees. And that had full sunshine that day, by the way. Needless to say, though, we have had a huge topsy-turvy couple of weeks here across the Mid-South. The vast majority of the month of January, though, falling below average. And with that being said, even this morning, we're still dealing with slick and icy roadways, especially on side and neighborhood roads. You know the drill at this point. Add some time, exercise caution to get out there here today, because after today, we should be in better shape in theory, because we'll have a couple of hours here, long period of time where we're going to be above freezing. 50 the high temperature for today, a southwest wind coming in 5 to 10 miles per hour, 40 tonight. So that means that we won't even drop below freezing here in the city of Memphis. So that continues a melting process as clouds begin to thicken. There may be a shower or two late, but I think that the better chances for rain will start moving in here as we get closer to like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Continue throughout much of the morning and early afternoon hours, topping out upper 40s near 50 degrees. A lot of the rain coming to an end as we get closer to the evening drive home, but there will still be some sporadic showers here and there. Behind that system, yeah, we do turn cooler. 38 the high temperature on Wednesday, 44 on Thursday, but the general trends here in the extended forecast, our average high is 53, by the way. below average temperatures start to pull away from us. Warmer than average temperatures as a more pronounced ridging, which means usually warmer temperature starts to emerge as we head towards the mid portion of the month. That is good news for us. Most of the colder air will get kind of locked up to the New England states, but it does look for us generally a bit warmer. I think everybody can get behind that after this long stretch of extremely cold weather here across the Mid-South. So for today, we'll go for a high temperature of about 50 degrees. Beautiful day across the Mid-South with a ton of sunshine. Once we get past 9, 10 o'clock, we'll get above freezing, and we will stay above freezing for the better part of 36 hours because behind this system, yeah, we do drop back closer to freezing early on Wednesday morning. Tuesday does feature the opportunities for rain. We'll time it out with our first alert futurecast. More scattered showers to develop, especially through mid-morning. Maybe a few pockets of heavier rain, and I can't rule it out that maybe a random sleet pellet mixes in, but mostly this will just be a plain Jane rain event here across the Mid-South. Notice the colder air where snow falling across portions of Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. It stays north of the Ohio River for the most part. So again, this will be just rainfall for us. That's lunchtime. Most of the rain moving out towards Middle Tennessee, Northeast Mississippi, Northwest Alabama continues to push eastward. We'll still have some lingering showers on the backside of it as we see the clouds still hanging on tough. Now, there's some question marks here about ultimately how this will come and go and get out of here because the lower clouds may linger. And with temperatures that will be near freezing by early on Wednesday morning, there's some question marks that we'll be able to get all the moisture out. And I just don't think that that's going to be the case. So a couple scenarios could play out. One, we just end up with a lot of clouds early on Wednesday morning that are going to be a little bit more stubborn to break up. Two, freezing fog is a concern early on Wednesday morning as we'll drop down again here in the city close to freezing, but there could be some spots that will be down into the upper 20s. And if we don't have that moisture able to evaporate back into the atmosphere, there's a question mark if we could still have some slick spots as bridges and overpasses or non-treated roadways. Let's say it like that because a lot of the roadways are still treated. There could still be some slick spots early on Wednesday morning. 22 when we wake up early on Thursday. After a start at 22, we'll make a run for 44. Near 60 come Friday. Super Bowl weekend looks great. 52 on Saturday. We take a little downward trend here. It's not terrible. 56 on Sunday and look upper 50s and low 60s heading into next week. And I think everybody will get behind that, be happy about it. Above average temperatures for the first time in several weeks here across the Mid-South, but we still have a couple of instances and impacts to get past. One, the icy side and neighborhood roads here today, and then the rain that comes in here before a brief shot of Canadian air moves in here by Wednesday.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. There is so much training, intense training, getting ready for the 2026 Winter Olympic Games. It's right around the corner. So much mental and physical training that goes into it for not just weeks or months, it's years. We're talking about years. I'm joined on the Action News 5 Digital Desk by Chloe Levins. She's part of Team USA's biathlete and biathlon that is coming up in Italy. And Chloe, nice to meet you. Tell me about, just briefly, how you train for something like this, and can you explain to our audience what a biathlon is? Good morning.
Absolutely. Good morning. Thanks for having me. I am here in Munich. I've been competing and training in Central Europe for a couple months now. And biathlon is the combination of Nordic skiing and precision shooting. And so we are athletes that put these two juxtaposing skill sets together and try to make them fit as perfectly as we can. I think that biathlon is a true test of resilience because it's a short way from the bottom to the top. You can miss a shot by millimeters and it can cost you an Olympic medal. But I'm halfway through my season here, and obviously this year culminates with the Olympic Games in Milano Cortina, and I'm really honored to be an alternate there and to step in if the team needs me.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I've always found a lot of curiosity around the biathlon. I'm curious as to how someone came up with this sport. I mean, you ski as fast as you can, and then you break out a gun and start target practice. It's funny to me. Tell me what the fans can expect of the Winter Olympic Games when they see the biathlon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to span the entirety of the event. Biathlon is a unique sport in the games where we have 11 competitions for men and women combined throughout the entire 2 weeks. So we'll be racing on day one and the last day of the games. So it'll be hard to miss biathlon, and Team USA is in the best position they've ever been in to win biathlon's first Olympic medal for Team USA. And I hope that I'm there, and I hope I get to step in, but I don't have that luxury of knowing, although I'll be as ready as I possibly can be.
Well, we'll be rooting you on here in Memphis, of course. Tell me a little bit about your background. What do you do when you're not training for the Olympics, and where are you from? Have you ever been to the Memphis area?
I'm from Rutland, Vermont, so unfortunately I have not been to Memphis yet. I would love to go. I like to have a lot of different things going on alongside my training. Biathlon is something that I do, but it's not who I am. And I like to have part-time jobs. I have part-time jobs while I travel and compete on the road. And I've also in recent years continued my education through Guild programs and the USOPC in that partnership. Through Guild, Team USA athletes can have hundreds of different graduate, undergraduate, certificate programs free of tuition at their disposal. And so I've been a beneficiary of that program. And just last year, I was taking a legal essentials course during World Championships and had my best championships to date. And so it's been really refreshing to get to see that achieving that balance has actually brought my biathlon to the next level.
What do you say to some of those people out there that may be listening right now that perhaps want to get on an Olympic track and be in a position where you are in a few years?
Yeah, I would tell them to follow their passion. I think that finding joy in what you do and being curious about it is the best way that you're going to reach the highest possible level in whatever you choose to go after. For me, my passion, I found it early at the age of 13, and I just chased it down. I love biathlon and trying to solve that puzzle of putting these two opposing skills together and having that perfect race. I think that we're all kind of chasing that in this sport. And at the same time, it's a short way from the bottom to the top, and injury or illness can take anyone out at any time. So planning for the future on the side and getting to do that with Guild has been a huge luxury, and honestly has given me much reassurance to be able to just continue on this path in biathlon, knowing that I have something in the back pocket as well.
What's next for you after the Olympics, Chloe?
After the games, we continue our World Cup tour, and we have a whole nother month of World Cup races in Scandinavia. So I'll go from Central Europe in the games and then continue on to Finland, where we'll have the last trimester of World Cups, and then finally home in April. And I'll have culminated the Olympic season in this quad and then make a decision if I want to continue or not.
Okay, Chloe Levins joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Congratulations on all your success. We're going to be rooting you on in Italy for the Winter Olympic Games that people can watch here on Action News 5. Thank you for taking a few minutes just here on the digital desk, and good luck. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 digital desk. There is a new exhibit that is coming to Memphis Botanic Garden. It is called Bloom, A Million Shades of Spring, and it is going to be unfolding March through May of this year with over 1 million blooms coming to life across Memphis Botanic Gardens, 96 beautiful acres. Joining me now to talk more about this is Olivia Wall at the Action News 5 digital desk at Memphis Botanic Garden. Olivia, this looks amazing. Tell me more about it. Good morning.
Good morning. We are so excited that we were just able to announce Bloom A Million Shades of Spring. It's going to be just a season of magic and constant renewal. Everybody loves spring in Memphis because we're coming into the warmer weather. Things start popping up across the city. And so we're super excited to celebrate it here at the garden and invite the community out. We've got tons of programming we're packing in. So if you've been here for our cherry blossom picnic, which is one of our signature experiences, just imagine that for 3 months. And so we have hundreds of thousands of tulips that'll be blooming. In April, our cherry blossom, our Yoshino cherry blossoms are usually bloom in March. And then we go right into all those signature southern blooms that everybody knows and loves. Our hydrangeas, our roses, our irises, and on and on and on.
That is amazing. It looks so beautiful on pictures here, but I know in person it's going to be amazing. Tell me about the thought process behind this whole idea, because this is the first year for this exhibit, right?
Absolutely. So we've always done, as most botanic gardens do, tulips. But so this year we're really blowing it out of the park. And we're super excited that it's the Dixons' 50th birthday this year. So they are also planting hundreds of thousands of tulips. And so at the corner of Park and Cherry, you have a very rare experience that you can see 2 botanic gardens in full bloom, which will end up being close to 1 million tulips, which will be one of the largest tulip displays in the United States.
Fantastic, and I love seeing these pictures. It's just so gorgeous. So tell us how people can get involved in this, Olivia. How can they be a part of this, see this? It's running from, is this March 1st to May 31st? How is it going to go?
That's the hope. Obviously, with blooms and flowers, we're dependent on weather. But we have programming that kicks off at the very beginning of March and runs all the way through May. So even if we have some of those blooms are a little bit stubborn and we get a cold front kind of closer in, we still will have that programming that will connect you to those blooms. So one of the signature programming experiences will be every single Saturday from 10 to 4. We'll have food trucks, we'll have kids activities, we'll be celebrating the blooms. Plus we'll be partnering with cultural partners. So people like the Memphis Symphony Orchestra will be out here, 901 Ty Iko from Stax Academy. We've got a lot of fun partnerships in the works right now. We also have some really exciting 21 plus elevated evenings. We'll do a tulips at twilight among the swaths of tulips in early April. And we're also going to do a kind of very fun elevated afternoon tea experience in early May.
It sounds great. It looks great. Anything else we can touch on before we let you go, Olivia? I can't wait.
Absolutely. Yeah. So head to our website, membg.org/bloom, and you'll find all the information on there. As we get a little closer, we'll be releasing all of the information about all of the programming, all the details. Otherwise, if you're just in desperate need of spring and a little bit of fun, lush greenery, I'm standing in our tropical plant house right now. And so it is warm, it is lush. So if you need a little bit of a break from Memphis winter, please come and check us out.
Okay, there it is one more time. Bloom at the Garden, 1 million shades of spring from March to May 2026. Memphis is blooming big. Start your spring here. Olivia Wall joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk to talk all about it. We appreciate your time as always, Olivia. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 digital desk. I want to tell you about James Holland. He is a former Texas Ranger, and he built a reputation as one of the most remarkable investigators in modern law enforcement. With more than 26 years with the Texas State Police, he's cracked hundreds of cases, but his rare gift lies in drawing confessions from the unthinkable serial killers. And joining me now on the Action News 5 digital desk, I am joined by James Holland himself to talk more about a show that is on the cusp here of delivering all kinds of interesting confessions to the audience. In fact, the show is called Killer Confessions. James, good morning to you. Tell us more about this show.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me, and good morning, Memphis. I appreciate you letting me on. The show, the idea behind it is really to kind of draw the curtain back and let people experience what homicide investigators are going through, specifically in the interview room, turning points of confessions, indications of deceptions, of tells, and kind of walking people through the story and hopefully kind of giving them a glimpse of what it's actually like to be in the room. The premise behind the show is, to not forget about the victims of violent crime, and specifically the victims in these cases, and to remember them and to remember their families. And it sounds really weird to say this, but also to remember the perpetrators, and not in a good way, but to basically remember that true evil exists out there, that there's people in the shadows, there's boogeymen, and we need to pay attention to our children. We need to know where they're going. We need to know when they get there, who they're with, and we need to recognize that there's really bad people out there, and these people need to ultimately be captured and put in jail and not allowed to harm anyone again.
I agree with you 1,000%, James. I appreciate you explaining that. So you are known as this guru who can get these confessions from so many different people, and apparently you use this masterful psychological approach. Tell me more about how you're able to get these confessions from these serial killers.
Well, number one, I guess none of them are exactly the same. They're all different. And it's really drawing on, 26 plus years in law enforcement of thousands of interviews that I'm taking these things into the room, and it's studying and learning people. It's getting a baseline, kind of like a lie detector. You're watching these people. You want them to lie to you. You want them to tell you the truth, and you want to watch for those indications of deception. You want to watch for the physical or the verbal indications. And as you go through an interview and you start turning up the heat a little bit, you would expect these indications to step out more. So I guess it's understanding the psyche. It's understanding the personality. It's knowing whether you're dealing with a psychopathic or a sociopathic personality, dealing with someone who doesn't have the ability to even understand remorse or love.
A lot of times people will, they think about, okay, two police officers going in for an interrogation. There's a good cop, there's a bad cop, that sort of thing. How is yours a little bit different, if you can tell us?
Sure. Most of my interviews are one-on-one, and I'm actually spending normally hours with these people, just building rapport, getting to know them, figuring out what makes them tick. These aren't people, specifically the serial killers. They're not afraid of anyone. They're not afraid of ultimately what's going to happen to them. They're not afraid of the death penalty. It's really figuring out a way to, or a reason to get them to talk, to share their innermost secrets. And sometimes that's to gratify themselves. Sometimes it's for publicity, different strokes, different folks, but it's really kind of digging into that and building this trust and getting them to want to tell you the truth, to tell you what happened.
What do you think is the biggest thing that you've learned from all this, James? I mean, you talk to all these people, you've been in law enforcement for this long, but specifically interrogating and talking to these people one-on-one, what's the biggest thing you've learned from it, from human nature, I guess you could say?
Oh, true evil exists. I mean, it's out there. The things that that these people have told me, walked me through, the innermost secrets of their inner mind. I can't describe how disturbing it is. I mean, if I was walking away from anything, I guess it's that I don't think society, people understand the evil that exists and what's out there. And if you did, you probably wouldn't let your kids out at all.
Right. I understand. Okay, so tell us where we can watch this show and what season is it in?
Sure, it's season 1, Discovery ID, 9 episodes. The first 2 episodes air on tomorrow night, 9/10 Central, and then it can stream the next day on HBO Max.
Okay. Anything else you want to let our audience know about these kind of confessions, how you're able to talk to these folks, and what the larger public should know about all these confessions?
I think a lot of getting these people to talk to you is, kind of understanding what makes them tick. And I would say more than anything, not letting them know that you're surprised or shocked with what you're saying. You step into that room and it's really kind of vanilla. You're not showing a whole lot of emotion, and you really have to turn into this kind of black and white persona in which it's almost impossible to do, but in a way you have to remove the victims from your head so you can deal with what these people are going to say to you.
Gotcha. All right, James Holland, we appreciate your time. Congratulations on your success here, and good luck with this first season of Killer Confessions. We appreciate it. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Well, my next guest, you're probably going to know very well. First off, he is someone who is hosting The Wall. It is an action-packed game with more than $12 million on the line each night. And there's up to $3 million on a single heart-stopping drop. He is also someone who grew up in Memphis. He is an actor and comedian. And joining me now on the Action News 5 Digital Desk, I have the pleasure of welcoming Chris Hardwick to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Joining us now to talk about The Wall, what's going on with him, when's he coming to Memphis. Chris, good morning to you. How are things?
Oh my gosh. I got to come back to Memphis to visit Billy Hardwick's All-Star Lanes, 1576 White Station at Quincy White Station. Yeah, I mean, I really have to come back to Memphis to visit. You're right, I grew up there. I mean, even just when I saw that, I was like, I get to talk to WMC. Like, that's a big deal to me. I grew up there watching WMC Channel 5. Come on.
Well, listen, you're a big deal these days, and we appreciate you taking a few minutes talking to us. First off, let's talk about The Wall. Tell us about the origins. You're the executive producer. You're also the host. How did the idea come about, and how's it going so far, Chris?
So it was presented to me by the creator of the show, a man named Andrew Glassman, who's a wonderful man and a genius. And I always wanted to do a big, flashy game show. When I was growing up in Memphis, in the 1900s, I would watch game show. I loved game shows. In the 80s, there was a big game show boom. And so when they presented this idea, I was like, oh, I get it. You drop a ball down, it bounces around, randomly lands in a bin. Okay, that seems fun. But what I never predicted was that the show would be so emotional because the people who come on are just these beautiful, wonderful examples of humanity. You know, people who've sacrificed for others their whole lives, people who've maybe not, you know, gotten as much back from life as they've given out. And so the show is really kind of a chance to hopefully, you know, give them their turn. And, you know, you get to know them, and you see, like, they are going to take this money. They're going to do amazing things with their own family. They're going to, you know, put it back into their communities. Like, it is, you feel all the emotions, but at the end of it, I do think it's a very upbeat, feel-good show, and it's a gift. We've been doing it like 10 years, and I'm just so appreciative that this gets to be my job.
Fantastic. Let's talk on a personal level. How are you? When do you come back to Memphis, if you do? And what else are you doing that keeps yourself busy?
I'm due back for a visit. I gotta come back. I'm a dad now. Our daughter's almost 4. My wife Lydia and I are just very proud parents. It's an amazing experience, and you know, she's 4, so I don't know if she would quite understand it yet, but sometime within the next couple of years, I want to bring her back and show her the bowling center where I grew up, you know? Like, that to me, I'll probably sob, like, because it'll be such an emotional experience. You know, my dad passed away in 2013. He never got to meet his granddaughter, but I really want to have the opportunity to take her there and take her bowling. Like, that to me would be incredible. So that's definitely on the plan for some point in the hopefully near future.
Great. And before we let you go, Chris, where can people watch The Wall if they haven't had a chance to watch it already?
So The Wall's on NBC Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, but I think, and Memphis is Central, right? So it could be on an hour earlier there. But it's always on Peacock. The new episodes stream the next day on Peacock after the Monday night airing. So I really appreciate you having me on. It is a real big deal to me. I appreciate it.
It's a big deal for us too. Congratulations on all your success, Chris. We appreciate it. And congratulations on being a dad, 4-year-old daughter. That's a big deal. And to you and Lydia, that's awesome. You know, 2026 is going to be a great year for you and for all of us. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
You get Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. 8:38 is the time on your Monday. I'm Andrew Douglas taking a live look from our High 5 camera downtown. 28 chilly degrees. It is, well, it's clear and it looks like it's going to be a great day. Lots of sunshine ahead. It's still very cold out there. It's another shot from our High 5 camera in Midtown Memphis outside of our studios here at 1960 Union Avenue. We'll talk more about the forecast in just a little bit, but first I want to get to some of the top stories we are following at this hour, and we begin in Holly Springs, Mississippi, where the city's utility department wants to remind customers that a boil water advisory remains in place. In a post on the utility department's Facebook page, the mayor says winter weather forced the health department to remain closed last week. The boil water notice will remain in place until further notice. They say people should continue to boil all tap water used for drinking, cooking, food preparation until the notice is lifted. Let's talk about the Mississippi Department of Transportation now, and they are providing an update on the road conditions in the northern part of the state. 14 counties reporting ice on roads and bridges. Those counties include Alcorn, Benton, Bolivar, Coahoma, DeSoto, Lafayette, LaFleur, Marshall, Panola, Quitman, Tallahatchie, Tippah, Tate, and Tunica counties. MDOT crews are still working to clear all the ice, but they're asking drivers to avoid the roads unless it is absolutely necessary. Ole Miss and most other Mid-South schools and universities will not have classes this week. Ole Miss will not reopen until February 9th. The student union remains open as warming centers for students and employees and showers are available at the Turner Center. Slowly, parts of the campus in the city of Oxford are getting power back on. Blends Bowl and the student union, along with several food trucks, are now open, giving another option for food aside from the Revel Market and Dish. The ice may be thawing, but there's still tens of thousands in North Mississippi without power. Oxford Utilities providing updates to its customers. Oxford Mayor Robin Tannehill announced that outages are down to a little more than 100 homes and businesses. She also says water's been restored to all City of Oxford customers. Oxford Utilities say crews are spread out across the city working on service reconnections. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves is updating us on the death toll, and in the state of Mississippi, the death toll stands at 23. The governor also says a total of 662 requests for assistance have been submitted by 41 counties, while the state deploys both personnel and resources to affected areas. In the state of Mississippi right now, the death toll is also at 23. It increased from 21 with a death in Dyer County, a second one in Knox County. 6 deaths in all reported in Shelby County. Other deaths in West Tennessee include Fayette, Hardin, Haywood, and Obion counties. Davidson County, one of the victims was found in his apartment. A generator was running near his bed. In Davidson County, all the weather-related deaths have been from carbon monoxide poisoning or from falls regarding ice. State efforts to relieve and bring recovery and relief out of the winter storm have received a boost from the federal government. We're talking about FEMA funds. They've sent close to $4 million in emergency funds to both the state of Mississippi and the state of Tennessee. This money can be used for all kinds of things: generators for high priority targets like hospitals and water systems, equipment to clear debris, and emergency supplies like water, food, and blankets. A story we've been following all weekend long. A 7-year-old remains in critical condition after falling into this icy pond with his older brother at the Southwind Lake Apartments Friday night. The 12-year-old has been released from the hospital. The 7-year-old is still recovering in critical condition. Witnesses say people were helpless there until a deputy dove in the freezing waters and helped rescue the boys. The Shelby County Sheriff's Office is warning parents about their children and walking on bodies of water that appear frozen. West Memphis, Arkansas now, and West Memphis is now moving into phase 2 of their operation. They're asking people to move their cars off neighborhood streets in order for city plows to clear the roads faster. The city also says crews are working extended hours to help clear the roads as quickly as possible. For a full list of roads included in this operation, you can go to our website, actionnews5.com. A man's behind bars this morning accused of stealing an ambulance where he was a patient. The Memphis police, just before noon Saturday, a private ambulance picked up James Shorter that you see here from St. Francis Hospital. The EMTs were advised that Shorter suffered from multiple mental health conditions. At some point during the ride, Shorter escaped from his buckle guards and then took control of the ambulance. Police say the ambulance was recovered on West Hall. Shorter is facing multiple charges, including intentionally evading arrest and reckless driving. Out to East Memphis now, where the former Houston's restaurant is being demolished. Last fall, the restaurant was sold to a new owner and a demolition permit was granted. The restaurant closed suddenly and permanently in December of 2024. It's still unclear what the plans are for that new property. And take a look at this reception that Team USA got in Italy, repping the red, white, and blue. Team USA welcomed in Milan. These are members of the Olympic figure skating team. They arrived to applause and greeted by messages from family and friends there. Lots of smiles. Team USA made up of more than 230 athletes this Olympics, the largest ever Team USA in a Winter Olympics Games. We're going to take a short break. We're back in 1 minute on Action News 5's Digital Desk with your full forecast.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk here on a Monday morning. Let's look back at the month of January. It's hard to believe that after the last 2 weeks of dealing with freezing cold temperatures, ice and snow all across the region, that the beginning of the month started off with 70s. Yes, we had a week where we were 60s and 70s on a daily basis. The warmest day back on January the 8th at 73 degrees. The coldest day on January the 26th, where we only managed a high of 20 degrees. And that had full sunshine that day, by the way. Needless to say, though, we have had a huge topsy-turvy couple of weeks here across the Mid-South. The vast majority of the month of January, though, falling below average. And with that being said, even this morning, we're still dealing with slick and icy roadways, especially on side and neighborhood roads. You know the drill at this point. Add some time, exercise caution to get out there here today, because after today, we should be in better shape in theory, because we'll have a couple of hours here, long period of time where we're going to be above freezing. 50 the high temperature for today, a southwest wind coming in 5 to 10 miles per hour, 40 tonight. So that means that we won't even drop below freezing here in the city of Memphis. So that continues a melting process as clouds begin to thicken. There may be a shower or two late, but I think that the better chances for rain will start moving in here as we get closer to like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Continue throughout much of the morning and early afternoon hours, topping out upper 40s near 50 degrees. A lot of the rain coming to an end as we get closer to the evening drive home, but there will still be some sporadic showers here and there. Behind that system, yeah, we do turn cooler. 38 the high temperature on Wednesday, 44 on Thursday, but the general trends here in the extended forecast, our average high is 53, by the way. Below average temperatures start to pull away from us. Warmer than average temperatures as a more pronounced ridging, which means usually warmer temperature starts to emerge as we head towards the mid portion of the month. That is good news for us. Most of the colder air will get kind of locked up to the New England states, but it does look for us generally a bit warmer. I think everybody can get behind that after this long stretch of extremely cold weather here across the Mid-South. So for today, we'll go for a high temperature of about 50 degrees. Beautiful day across the Mid-South with a ton of sunshine. Once we get past 9, 10 o'clock, we'll get above freezing, and we will stay above freezing for the better part of 36 hours, because behind this system, yeah, we do drop back closer to freezing early on Wednesday morning. Tuesday does feature the opportunities for rain. We'll time it out with our first alert futurecast. More scattered showers to develop, especially through mid-morning. Maybe a few pockets of heavier rain, and I can't rule it out that maybe a random sleet pellet mixing in, but mostly this will just be a plain Jane rain event here across the Mid-South. Notice the colder air where snow falling across portions of Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. It stays north of the Ohio River for the most part. So again, this will be just rainfall for us. That's lunchtime. Most of the rain moving out towards Middle Tennessee, Northeast Mississippi, Northwest Alabama, continues to push eastward. We'll still have some lingering showers on the backside of it as we see the clouds still hanging on tough. Now, there's some question marks here about ultimately how this will come and go and get out of here, because the lower clouds may linger, and with temperatures that will be near freezing by early on Wednesday morning, there's some question marks that we'll be able to get all the moisture out, and I just don't think that that's going to be the case. So a couple scenarios could play out. One, we just end up with a lot of clouds early on Wednesday morning that are going to be a little bit more stubborn to break up. Two, freezing fog is a concern early on Wednesday morning, as we'll drop down again here in the city close to freezing, but there could be some spots that will be down into the upper 20s. And if we don't have that moisture able to evaporate back into the atmosphere, there's a question mark if we could still have some slick spots as bridges and overpasses or non-treated roadways. Let's say it like that, because a lot of the roadways are still treated. There could still be some slick spots early on Wednesday morning. 22 when we wake up early on Thursday. After a start at 22, we'll make a run for 44. Near 60 come Friday. Super Bowl weekend looks great. 52 on Saturday. We take a little downward trend here. It's not terrible. 56 on Sunday, and look upper 50s and low 60s heading into next week. And I think everybody will get behind that, be happy about it. Above average temperatures for the first time in several weeks here across the Mid-South, but we still have a couple of instances and impacts to get past. One, the icy side and neighborhood roads here today, and then the rain that comes in here before a brief shot of Canadian air moves in here by Wednesday.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. There is so much research that's happening at the University of Memphis. We talk to some of the professors and some of the researchers these days, and they do deep dives into topics that affect our daily lives, everything from, dietary supplements or ADHD research. And this morning, I'm excited about our next interview because it's research that is a very important topic these days when we talk about aging, dementia, Alzheimer's. I'm joined on the Action News 5 Digital Desk by Melissa Puppa. She is a researcher, professor at the University of Memphis, the College of Health and Sciences, to do a deep dive on aging as it relates to Alzheimer's and dementia. Melissa, thanks for joining us this morning. First off, tell me a little bit about your research project, what it was, before we get into some of the nitty-gritty of it. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. So kind of the big topic that we're really discussing today is Alzheimer's disease and muscle loss with aging, which is also termed sarcopenia. And there's a huge link between this muscle loss that occurs as part of a natural aging process and the development of Alzheimer's disease.
I totally get that. I've made it, well known that my father has Alzheimer's disease, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Tell me specifically about this research project and maybe some of the things you discovered.
So what the research really shows is that Alzheimer's disease, it's not just a disease of the brain. It appears to be more of a systemic disease. So it affects pretty much all parts of the body, from metabolic function to muscle mass. And then, of course, what everybody associates it with the brain dysfunction, cognitive loss, and those types of things.
Got it. And Alzheimer's is such a devastating disease. I know it's a form of dementia, and so many people know about that. And I can totally understand how, when your brain suffers like that, it, as a result, affects the entire body. Tell us some more research that you discovered.
So we've seen that there's a lot of the risk factors that are systemic risk factors, things like type 2 diabetes, hypertension, inflammation, that are risk factors for things like cardiovascular disease, are actually also risk factors for the development of Alzheimer's disease. Things like chronic inflammation that occurs with a lot of different diseases can cause this disruption in the brain. We know that there's dysfunction of the mitochondria, both in the brain tissue, but also in the skeletal muscle tissue. And some of these dysfunctions that occur systemically happen prior to the loss of cognitive function. And so if we're able to kind of catch these types of things or prevent these systemic dysfunctions early, we may be able to slow the decline or even prevent the development of Alzheimer's disease in some individuals.
Thank you for going there. So essentially, you're saying that if there are certain signs and symptoms out there that can give us kind of a warning point to say, hey, look, if you don't change what you're doing, or if you don't change certain things that are happening, you could end up down this path of dementia and Alzheimer's. I would love to hear more about the signs and symptoms you're talking about.
Yeah, so one of the biggest signs or predictors that is associated with, so it's not necessarily directly causing, but it's a good marker, is loss of strength. And so there's a large number of studies that have shown that in older individuals, those that have lower strength, so not necessarily muscle mass, but actual performance of that muscle, is associated with quicker declines if they do develop Alzheimer's disease, but also they're more likely to develop cognitive dysfunction or Alzheimer's disease. So they may have mild cognitive impairments earlier on than somebody who's able to maintain strength.
I hear so much, Melissa, about how important it is for older people as we age just to get out and move and exercise. So important for the body and the mind. And it just sounds like this is one of those situations that, once again, the research proves you have to, work out, stay active, walk, do what you can in order to continue to exercise throughout your life. Otherwise, you set yourself up for some diseases, and in this case, like Alzheimer's and dementia. Am I on the right path here?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, the research shows, a lot of the research shows that even if you're not doing a lot of exercise, something is better than nothing. So going and lifting weights, if that's something that somebody does regularly, start with 1 time a week and then progress to 2 times a week. Keep walking or change the walk to a jog. Any sort of movement is better than no movement, and both aerobic exercise and resistance exercise have both shown to be beneficial in the prevention of Alzheimer's.
Okay, good to know. I want to ask about myokines. I don't know if I'm saying it right, and apparently they matter when it comes to Alzheimer's risk. Explain to our audience what they are and how they matter.
Yeah, so myokines are these little signals that are secreted from the muscle itself. So a lot of times people just think of the muscle as it's there to help us move and get around, and that's its only job. But there's a lot more to skeletal muscle than that. It's a very metabolic organ, but it also can release little proteins that signal to other organs. And these little proteins are called myokines. And so when we exercise, we actually get a bigger release of these myokines. And some of these myokines can travel up to the brain and can help with things like making new neurons, improving the health of the neurons that we currently have. A term that we call like synaptic plasticity, which basically just means your brain is a bit more adaptable.
Great stuff here. I love it, Melissa. So some final thoughts, some bottom lines out there for our audience before we let you go about the research you got.
Yeah, so there's a lot of studies that show strength is one of the best correlators or predictors of cognitive decline. So the more you can build your strength early doesn't mean you have to get big or bulky. Just be able to pick up things. Heavier the better. That's going to be a better indicator of cognitive decline. There's studies in the US, studies in China, all over the place that show that this is a big correlation. So really just kind of the more consistent you can be in exercising, the more you can prevent those systemic diseases like diabetes, hypertension, the better off you'll end up being in terms of keeping the brain healthy and the whole rest of the body healthy.
Gotcha. Is there a place we can see some of this research online, Melissa?
That's a good question. There's a lot of studies that are posted on the web, and I'm sure we can put a little post up that has some of the links to the research that I've referenced.
Okay, Melissa Pumpa, researcher and professor, University of Memphis College of Health and Sciences. Appreciate the deep dive into some of the research you found when it came to aging and Alzheimer's disease. Thank you so much for sharing that with us and our audience here on the Action News 5. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 digital desk. You know, there is different warnings and different signs and symptoms when it comes to a heart attack for men and women. Let's bring in Dr. Anna Yang. She is a professional physician at Regional One Health, because we know, Dr. Yang, that the CDC says every 40 seconds someone has a heart attack in the U.S. So can you first describe what actually a heart attack is? What does that mean?
Sure. So thanks again for having me. Heart attacks are very scary things. We hear about them all the time. We hear people die of them, and sometimes it's kind of a mystery as to what it actually is. So let's see if I can make this simple. So basically, in a heart attack, you suddenly don't have enough blood flow to part of your heart. And if that happens for long enough, your heart tissue actually starts to die. And if enough of your heart tissue dies, then your heart may never function normally again. If a large portion of your heart starts to die and doesn't function anymore, some people can even die suddenly. But not all heart attacks end in death. But basically what's happening is that there's suddenly not enough blood flow for the heart to function correctly.
So I know that the signs and symptoms for a heart attack in men are different than women. Can you explain maybe some of the big signs and symptoms for both genders?
Sure. So classically, heart attacks present with chest pain, usually in the middle of your chest, and it usually feels like a pressure type feeling, like the classically described elephant sitting on your chest. Just a big pressure squeezing feeling. It's not necessarily like the way you would imagine, pain to be, like a sharp stabbing type thing. This kind of chest pressure or pain can also come with shortness of breath, some nausea, maybe your heart's racing a little bit, maybe you get sweaty all of a sudden. And this chest pain or pressure can also radiate or kind of shoot towards your arm or your jaw or potentially your neck. Now, not everybody, though, has the classic signs of heart attacks. Sometimes heart attacks more commonly in women, or more commonly in people with diabetes, or more common in older people. Sometimes heart attacks don't have those exact symptoms. Sometimes it's just a feeling of nausea, a little bit of restlessness, just suddenly feeling tired all over. So not every single heart attack presents as the classic kind of chest pain symptoms. And men and women can all have these abnormal or atypical symptoms, but it does seem to happen more often in women and those with diabetes and other medical conditions.
I know that there's something called a silent heart attack, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what that is in relation to just your, I guess, typical heart attack.
Sure. So it's referring to the symptoms. So your typical heart attack, you have all the, symptoms of it. You don't feel good. You have potentially chest pain or the, nausea or the sweating or the shortness of breath or the heart palpitations or the weakness. A silent heart attack is just, you don't have those same symptoms. You might have a little bit of a vague feeling of, being unwell, or a little bit of just, mild symptoms. But you can have these symptoms and be actually having a heart attack and not know it. And that's why they call it silent. So that, in the future, when you're getting evaluated by a doctor for something else, you find out later on that, oh, you actually did have a heart attack at some point and didn't recognize it or didn't know it.
If you think you're having a heart attack and you feel like you might, what should you do?
So the most important thing really is to get seen and get your risk factors and things evaluated before you have a heart attack at all. So go to your regular doctor, get your regular checkups. If you have risk factors like high blood pressure or diabetes or high cholesterol, or you're smoking and trying to quit, your doctor can help you with all of these things to try to mitigate your risk factors and decrease the chances of you having a heart attack at all. But if you really think you're having a heart attack, definitely get yourself to the emergency room right away. Because if you're not having enough blood flow to your heart, that needs to be fixed as soon as possible, whether it's by medication or procedure or a combination of both. That blood flow to your heart needs to be restored as soon as possible to try to preserve as much of your heart function in the future as possible. So if you really think you're having a heart attack, go straight to the emergency room.
What about prevention? Let's talk a little bit about prevention, just news you can use right now for the thousands of people who are watching, Anna.
Sure. So prevention is the most important thing. There are a lot of different risk factors for having heart attacks, and a lot of them you can't control, and there's no point worrying about those things. Things, like normal aging, family history, and things like that, you have no control over. So there's no need to even worry about that. Now, the things you can control, though, making sure you're getting enough sleep, making sure your stress is managed as much as possible, making sure you're eating a healthy, nutritious diet, and then all those risk factors, medical conditions that I talked about before, potentially high blood pressure, diabetes and cholesterol, making sure you get those checked and controlled and managed as much as possible. And you may not even feel those symptoms. A lot of people have high blood pressure without having any idea of it. And the only way to know is to check your blood pressure and go to your doctor, who can then, potentially guide you on if you need medication for this, or if there are things that you can do with lifestyle changes, improving what you're doing on a day-to-day basis before, having to start medication. And then, of course, if you're smoking, that's a big one too. If you can quit smoking, that would make a huge difference in preventing heart attacks.
So anything else before we let you go, Anna? These are great tips and just great useful information for our audience.
Yeah, the most important thing is to see your doctor regularly. If you don't have a regular doctor, make sure you go to one so that they can screen you for these things. And if you're having signs and symptoms, please don't ignore them. If you think you may be having something dangerous or something major going on, the sooner the better. So, don't wait days later to get yourself medical care. If you really think you're having a problem, go seek help immediately.
Okay, Dr. Anna Yang with Regional One Health, we appreciate your time on the Digital Desk explaining exactly what a heart attack is, ways to prevent it, the signs and symptoms, and everything in between. Anna, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Are you keeping up with your New Year's resolutions? A lot of times that is a big struggle for so many people out there. In fact, there's a recent survey that shows only 6%, okay? So that means 94% of people do not keep New Year's resolutions for the entire year. So what do? How do we keep that New Year's resolutions, especially when they focus on our fitness and on our health? Well, I'm glad you asked. I got a couple of experts here joining us now on the Action News 5 Digital Desk to really kind of give us some insight on how we keep our New Year's resolutions throughout 2026 and beyond. I'm joined on the Action News 5 Digital Desk by Callie Roll and Dalton Mabry, certified personal trainers at Lifetime Fitness in Collierville. Good morning to you both. So first off, where do we begin? We'll start with you, Callie. Where do we begin when we try to attain the New Year's resolutions throughout the year, not just overdoing it that first couple of days or a couple of weeks? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here. Yes, this is the biggest part about New Year's resolutions. It's like we go from 0 to 100 overnight, and we want to just attain these huge goals in a week or so. But I always like to tell my clients we want to start small. So small wins are going to build your confidence, and then that confidence is going to build consistency, and consistency is our goal. So let's say you wanted to lose 30 pounds. Well, that's a great goal. Let's break it down a bit. How about we strength train 3 times a week and then try and get 8,000 steps a day, and then boom, that's an attainable goal that you can achieve almost every single day.
I like that. Just bite-size, different attainable goals along the way, and then at the end of the year, you look back and you've achieved that goal that you set out for back on January 1st. Dalton, what about you? What kind of advice would you give to some of those people looking to, keep their New Year's resolutions throughout the year?
Well, a lot of my ideas fall in the same line as Callie here, where you do want to start really, really small, almost so small it seems very, very insignificant. Um, More than, let's say, like half of every New Year's resolution person who starts working out at the beginning of the year, they usually die out by the end of January, and that's half already gone. A lot of times that comes from overwhelming themselves with new things, like a complete diet overhaul, or working out 5, 6, 7 days a week. If you were to just focus on, improving 1 or 2 meals in your day, and working out once or twice a week to start, that puts you in that snowball effect where it almost seems those insignificant changes are going to build up, and that's what's going to keep you successful in the long term.
I like that. That's great. That's another great idea. I know that this is your busy time of season for both of you. I go to the gym and it's so busy. I see people that I've never seen there before. It's got a different vibe. It's definitely crowded. What are some achievable New Year's resolutions ideas out there for you? Because, let's face it, it's never too late to start something new to improve your health, right? Callie?
Yes, I totally agree. One thing that I tell all of my clients here at Lifetime, the first thing, whether it's a New Year's resolution or just you want to get back into health and fitness, number one thing is getting at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. Because that's going to set you up for success. Everybody thinks that great sleep is a luxury that you're not allowed to have, but it's not, and it's totally attainable, and it's going to just offset you for an amazing year getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. And I also love that here at Lifetime we have tons of great supplement products, and I always recommend our Dream. It's a blend of magnesium, and it just helps support your sleep throughout the night, and you get great deep REM sleep rather than just kind of falling asleep and waking up halfway through the night and then feeling tired in the morning. But yeah, great sleep, 7 to 8 hours a night is just going to set you up for success.
Yeah, absolutely. Dalton, over to you.
I like for us to set a good goal. With a lot of the clients that I work with here, if we come in with a goal in mind, we have a vision. And when you're able to have a vision, that's what's going to help you a lot with maintaining your values, your goals. If you come in and you want to lose 50 pounds this year, well, let's say, hey, this month, let's focus on losing those first 3 to 5, So if we're making small goals with a vision in mind, short-term and long-term, that's going to help you so much.
Something else I've noticed, and I'll open this up to any one of you that wants to weigh in. I think for a lot of people, and when I was first starting out, I needed a partner to go with me to the gym, because there are days where it's like the last thing I want to do is step into the gym. But I have someone that I'm working out with, and they're like, hey, I'm already here. I'll see you there in 15, 20 minutes. Having that accountability is so important, especially early on, don't you think?
Yes, I 100% agree. Not only am I a dynamic personal trainer here at Lifetime, but I've touched into our group fitness aspect, and I just love seeing the new wave of people come in and be able to step into an environment and a classroom where, one, maybe they don't feel comfortable yet going out on the fitness floor with all the machines and the free weights, but they feel a lot more comfortable walking into a class with 40 other people who are kind of on the same level, and being able to watch an instructor, know exactly what's coming up, know exactly what to do. And then also you get a social aspect of it. So you're making friends, you're having fun, and you're also bettering yourself along the way.
I'll tell you, these are some great ideas for people watching. Final thoughts before we let you go here for connecting and committing to those New Year's resolutions.
Well, I just think that if you were to decide to make this change, starting this year, I just want to, reiterate that when you come in here, don't overwhelm yourself with a huge goal, especially if it's something new to you. It can be intimidating for a lot of people. So if you come in with a small goal, let's say you want to come in and you just want to learn, how to get comfortable on a treadmill. Coming in with a plan is the smartest thing that you could do. Is as long as you know what you're going to do when you come in here, through repetition, you're going to reach your goals.
Excellent. Okay. Well, Callie and Dalton, we appreciate your time here on the Digital Desk. Great advice for anybody out there really wanting to improve themselves in 2026 and beyond. We appreciate your time on the Digital Desk. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Parkinson's disease that affects nearly 1 million people in the U.S., with more than 90,000 newly diagnosed each and every year. There's no one way to diagnose Parkinson's disease. It makes it difficult to recognize. Some early signs are tremors. Some other signs are loss of smell, trouble sleeping or walking, a soft or low voice, stooping over, hunching over, and non-motor symptoms like depression and anxiety. Let's talk a little bit about Parkinson's disease, how to recognize those symptoms, and some solutions out there that we can give to families and caregivers. I'm joined on the Action News 5 Digital Desk by a couple of people here. John Lair, he's president and CEO of Parkinson's Foundation, and Dr. Kathy Blake. She is someone living with Parkinson's disease right now. Good morning to you both. And John, I want to begin with you. Tell us exactly what is Parkinson's disease for our viewers out there, and the most important thing to know about Parkinson's disease. Good morning.
Yeah, you captured the early signs very well. So Parkinson's is called a degenerative progressive neurological disease. It's also known as a movement disorder. So some initial signs are the ones you listed, like a resting tremor, difficulty moving. But it is a whole body disease. It can affect cognition, mental health, your senses, the GI. People will start to notice symptoms, sometime before they actually get diagnosed by a physician, preferably a neurologist. The thing to know about it is the number one risk factor for Parkinson's disease is age. So people are mostly diagnosed later in life, in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. There's just a small percentage of people who are diagnosed with what's called young onset Parkinson's disease. And the other thing I'd say is you can live well with Parkinson's if you adhere to your medication regimen and if you exercise, which I think is really very important.
Thank you for that, John. Kathy, over to you. Tell me a little bit about your story and how you manage the symptoms of Parkinson's.
So I developed symptoms of Parkinson's about 12 years ago, but there was a period of 5 years in which the pain, the achiness in my left arm and shoulder, I thought it was arthritis. I thought I was just getting older. I saw an orthopedic surgeon, went to a physical therapist, and I got better. And it was only when I started to develop a very slight tremor in my left hand, and I was seeing a physical therapist, brand new, out of school, newly minted, and I mentioned it to her, and she said, you know, something else is going on here. She was the one who got the ball rolling and pointed me in the direction of a neurologist and then a movement disorder specialist. So once I found out I had Parkinson's disease, the prescription, the medication, so to speak, was exercise. And that's because exercise is the one strategy that will actually slow the progression of the disease. We don't have a cure, so we want to slow the progression. And then over time, my neurologist added medication to manage some of my symptoms as well.
Kathy, thank you. I appreciate that. John, over to you. What causes Parkinson's disease? Is it just genetic? How is it diagnosed?
Yeah, so we don't really know. We know that there are a number of causes. So again, age is the #1 risk factor. We also know that genetics plays a role in diagnosis. In fact, we're running one of the largest studies looking into the genetics of Parkinson's, a program called PD Generation. And there are also environmental factors, some toxins out there that can also exacerbate and lead to a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease.
So I want to open this up to you both. Let's talk about resources available, how to best manage symptoms out there, and what would you say to family members and caregivers who are dealing with this disease with a family member? Kathy, let me start with you.
So what I would say to families and caregivers is learn as much as you possibly can about Parkinson's disease. That can be through some of the resources that John will mention. Second, you're not alone. So become part of a community of people either living with Parkinson's or caring for someone with Parkinson's. Exercise, and the exercise may be with others with Parkinson's, but it could be walking with friends. It could be riding a bicycle, going to the gym. And then lastly, get involved, if at all possible, with research. The study that John mentioned, PD Generation, but also it's through research that we will get closer to better therapies and closer to a cure.
John, over to you.
Yeah, so for more information and resources, please go to our website, which is parkinson.org. That's parkinson.org. And if you want to talk to somebody live, call our helpline, which is 800-4PD-INFO. That's 800-4PD-INFO. We have Parkinson's experts who are ready and willing to answer any questions you might have about Parkinson's disease and to also direct you to resources in your local community.
Well, John and Kathy, thank you so much for this conversation. I feel like people out there at least either have someone in their family or know someone who has Parkinson's, and they are dealing with it as a caregiver or family member. We appreciate your time on the Digital Desk. Very valuable information. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We have got some alarming new health data out there that suggests that 9 out of 10 people have certain health risk factors, and they don't know or realize that they have it. And we're talking about health conditions that can trigger everything from heart disease, kidney disease, diabetes, all at the same time. Let's talk to somebody who knows about what we're talking about here and some of the latest data that is pretty alarming from what I understand. I'm joined on the Action News 5 digital desk by Dr. Tiffany Powell-Wiley. She's a physician. She's also a researcher, joining us on the digital desk to talk about this new data. So Tiffany, tell us, where do we begin on this? Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Andrew. So we want to make sure that people are aware of cardiovascular kidney metabolic syndrome, or CKM syndrome. And it's really about these interconnected diseases, things like diabetes and obesity, that put you at risk for heart disease and even kidney disease. And it's important to understand that all of these are interrelated, they're all interconnected, and one can put you at risk for the other, but also treatments that are out there can affect risk for each of those. And all of it affects heart health.
So, okay, so cardiovascular kidney metabolic syndrome or disease, explain what that is and maybe some warning signs that our audience would enjoy knowing.
So it's important to know that that CKM syndrome really relates to the fact that conditions like heart disease and kidney disease can't be treated in isolation. These are things that affect each other. And really, we want to emphasize that your body is interconnected. And so when we think of talking to our doctors about risk factors for heart disease, we want to ask not only about our high cholesterol, our blood pressure, and how it relates to our risk for heart disease, but also what does our kidney health look like? And that because that's important to think about as a risk factor for heart disease.
Yeah, I would think so. So this is something where a lot of people, we mentioned off the top, that they don't even know that perhaps they are dealing with something that could really change the outcome of their lives, certainly their health. Can you explain a little bit more about what this data is saying and how people need to be more aware of what exactly is going on?
Absolutely. So it's important to think, as you mentioned, that 9 out of 10 U.S. adults have a risk factor for heart disease or kidney disease. Those are risk factors like obesity, diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. And so that's where it's important to know what those risk factors are, know your numbers, ask your physician about your numbers, but also understand that reversing and treating many of these risk factors can actually prevent not only heart disease, but also kidney disease.
Okay, so I was just going to ask you, Tiffany, let's talk about prevention. So if we have one of those and people are, by the way, our thousands of people that are watching, everybody should be getting a physical yearly. And if you have one of these conditions, then what?
So if you have one of these conditions, it's important to know what your numbers look like. Again, know what your blood pressure looks like, know what your cholesterol looks like, but also ask your doctor about treatments that are available, because many of the treatments that are available now for heart disease actually can treat things like kidney disease. And so making sure that you're on the right medications, but also making sure that you get the important physical activity and get the right diet for you. And so that's information that your doctor can help you provide and get the right information for you.
Sure, absolutely. And so we know, diet and exercise very important when it comes to these kind of conditions. What else can we do to perhaps prevent or improve our health with regards to these specific issues?
So the other important thing is to understand what our risks look like. And so we have new ways of measuring heart disease risk. And so one thing to ask your doctor is to use risk calculators that are now available that can try to account for all of the risk factors for, again, it's CKM syndrome, these interconnected risk factors, and start to understand what your long-term risks for heart disease look like.
Okay, CKM syndrome. Tiffany, we appreciate your time on the digital desk. Thank you for illuminating us to these different conditions that, in one way or another, they are all connected, and it's something that we need to be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk here on a Monday morning. Let's look back at the month of January. It's hard to believe that after the last 2 weeks of dealing with freezing cold temperatures, ice and snow all across the region, that the beginning of the month started off with 70s. Yes, we had a week where we were 60s and 70s on a daily basis. The warmest day back on January the 8th at 73 degrees. The coldest day on January the 26th. Where we only managed a high of 20 degrees. And that had full sunshine that day, by the way. Needless to say, though, we have had a huge topsy-turvy couple of weeks here across the Mid-South. The vast majority of the month of January, though, falling below average. And with that being said, even this morning, we're still dealing with slick and icy roadways, especially on side and neighborhood roads. You know the drill at this point. Add some time, exercise caution to get out there here today, because after today, we should be in better shape in theory, because we'll have a couple of hours here, long period of time where we're going to be above freezing. 50 the high temperature for today, a southwest wind coming in 5 to 10 miles per hour, 40 tonight. So that means that we won't even drop below freezing here in the city of Memphis. So that continues a melting process as clouds begin to thicken. There may be a shower or two late, but I think that the better chances for rain will start moving in here as we get closer to like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Continue throughout much of the morning and early afternoon hours, topping out upper 40s near 50 degrees. A lot of the rain coming to an end as we get closer to the evening drive home, but there will still be some sporadic showers here and there. Behind that system, yeah, we do turn cooler. 38 the high temperature on Wednesday, 44 on Thursday, but the general trends here in the extended forecast, our average high is 53, by the way. Below average temperatures start to pull away from us. Warmer than average temperatures as a more pronounced ridging, which means usually warmer temperature starts to emerge as we head towards the mid portion of the month. That is good news for us. Most of the colder air will get kind of locked up to the New England states, but it does look for us generally a bit warmer. I think everybody can get behind that after this long stretch of extremely cold weather here across the Mid-South. So for today, we'll go for a high temperature of about 50 degrees. Beautiful day across the Mid-South with a ton of sunshine. Once we get past 9, 10 o'clock, we'll get above freezing, and we will stay above freezing for the better part of 36 hours, because behind this system, yeah, we do drop back closer to freezing early on Wednesday morning. Tuesday does feature the opportunities for rain. We'll time it out with our first alert futurecast. More scattered showers to develop, especially through mid-morning. Maybe a few pockets of heavier rain, and I can't rule it out that maybe a random sleet pellet mixes in, but mostly this will just be a plain Jane rain event here across the Mid-South. Notice the colder air where snow falling across portions of Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. It stays north of the Ohio River for the most part. So again, this will be just rainfall for us. That's lunchtime. Most of the rain moving out towards Middle Tennessee, Northeast Mississippi, Northwest Alabama, continues to push eastward. We'll still have some lingering showers on the backside of it as we see the clouds still hanging on tough. Now, there's some question marks here about ultimately how this will come and go and get out of here, because the lower clouds may linger, and with temperatures that will be near freezing by early on Wednesday morning, there's some question marks that we'll be able to get all the moisture out, and I just don't think that that's going to be the case. So a couple scenarios could play out. One, we just end up with a lot of clouds early on Wednesday morning that are going to be a little bit more stubborn to break up. 2, freezing fog is a concern early on Wednesday morning, as we'll drop down again here in the city close to freezing, but there could be some spots that will be down into the upper 20s. And if we don't have that moisture able to evaporate back into the atmosphere, there's a question mark if we could still have some slick spots as bridges and overpasses or non-treated roadways. Let's say it like that, because a lot of the roadways are still treated. There could still be some slick spots early on Wednesday morning. 22 when we wake up early on Thursday. After a start at 22, we'll make a run for 44. Near 60 come Friday. Super Bowl weekend looks great. 52 on Saturday. We take a little downward trend here. It's not terrible. 56 on Sunday, and look upper 50s and low 60s heading into next week. And I think everybody will get behind that, be happy about it. Above average temperatures for the first time in several weeks here across the Mid-South, but we still have a couple of instances and impacts to get past. One, the icy side and neighborhood roads here today, and then the rain that comes in here before a brief shot of Canadian air moves in here by Wednesday.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 digital desk. Well, Friday afternoon, if you're like me, you were exhausted for the week and you're getting ready to enjoy the weekend with friends and family, that sort of thing. And one of my alerts on the phone took me to an article in the Daily Memphian, and the title of the article was an immediate thing for me that I had to click on. FedEx founder's family offered to buy the Grizzlies. Now, this is something where Grizz Nation out there, many Grizzly fans, myself included, are worried a little bit about perhaps the idea of the Grizzlies moving to another city, another location. But to have a majority owner that's local, that would keep the team in Memphis after years of hearing the possibility of it moving elsewhere and this lease agreement not being signed just yet, or at least a long-term one. Let's bring in the person who wrote that article on Friday that is still getting lots of buzz out there. I'm joined by Sam Hardiman on the Action News 5 digital desk. He writes about government and politics. He's a reporter for the Daily Memphian. Enjoy always talking with him here on the digital desk. So, Sam, tell us a little bit about this article, and it just seemed to come out of nowhere, but yet we're in basketball season, and it's something that's top of mind. The Grizzlies not only, struggling right now in this season, but are they going to stay? Are they going to go? And this kind of, was something that a lot of people were interested in. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Andrew. Thanks for having me on. First, I want to be clear with everyone that the Grizzlies, I think, and it's been clear for years for anyone that's covered the lease negotiations between the city, the county, and the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies aren't going anywhere. There isn't a real interest at this time in January or February, of 2026, for the Grizzlies, the majority owner, Robert Pera, to take the team anywhere. They don't have any interest in that. Their actions, reported actions at this point, probably show that. And so that brings us to this article. So on Friday, I was really, we at the Daily Memphian were having conversations about just the ownership situation, some of the national reporting that was out there about majority owner Robert Pera. And so we started making calls, and I started, making inquiries. And, Richard Smith, FedEx executive, the son of late FedEx founder Fred Smith, he and I had a conversation, an exchange. And, he revealed to me that they had just tried to buy the team, that his family had in recent weeks attempted to buy the team. And so I was like, wow, that's obviously giant news. And so then we talked further, and he said, look, those conversations didn't go anywhere. And, we didn't speak to Robert Pera directly. We used a sports advisory firm, and essentially, and this, we have confirmed this independently of Richard Smith, by the way, this did happen. But essentially Robert Pera, through this advisory firm, and whether it was Pera or somebody who works for him, it's not clear. So there's no interest in selling the team, and there's no interest in relocating the team. And, that matches, again, like what I said a few minutes ago, which is, if you've been following this process closely, you can very much see the Grizzlies' fingerprints in what's happening in downtown Memphis and the changes that are underway there, and just the intent with which they and the city and Shelby County have worked to get to an agreement for a second long-term lease, because the team's existing lease ends at the end of the 28-29 NBA season, which is now not that far away. But they were never really on the table. And what this story essentially shows is that that's never been on the table. And then, we spoke, Jeff Calkins and I, my colleague at the Daily Memphian, spoke to Mayor Paul Young later that afternoon. And he's like, look, through all these years he's like, I've been in office 2 years, essentially. I'm paraphrasing him here. But I've been in office 2 years, and all their actions have been, we want to stay. They've demonstrated a commitment to the city, and never once have they threatened us. And so I think people can maybe relax a little bit about the future of the Grizzlies, at least at this time. Again, it's February 2026. A long-term deal is not done. But I think all of this information just points to, well, the Grizzlies really don't say a lot. They don't really say much publicly at all about their intentions. Their actions indicate they want to be in Memphis, Tennessee.
That sounds fantastic, and I know there are a lot of old Grizzlies fans out there, longtime Grizzlies fans, I should say, that what you're saying is music to their ears, because there's always just a tiny bit of worry, being a small market team, wondering if it's going to move to Vegas, and there are reports of that happening. And as you mentioned, the lease agreement is not that far away, where it expires in just a few short years. And so there's always just a tiny thing in the back of so many people's minds that, oh no, they're going to leave, and that's going to really do a number on Memphis and downtown, et cetera. And here's, FedEx, founder family, the Fred Smith family, now Richard Smith, saying, okay, hey, look, we'll buy the team. So you're essentially saying there's no interest in leaving, and therefore the idea of the Smith family buying the team is really not on the table, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the conversations went nowhere. This is, I think, much more a story of, yeah, it's really interesting that the Smiths tried to buy from Robert Pera, but the real news here is Robert Pera didn't have any interest in selling, right? And so that's what's on the table here, is like you saw what would have been significant local ownership try to say, just inquire, just see if it was available. And the answer is no, and the answer is we're not leaving. And so that's the news here.
That's good to hear. And, one of the things, though, that some people just kind of, maybe scratching their head about, and I know your article didn't touch on it, is Robert Pera and his involvement. And, as you mentioned, he's someone that doesn't necessarily make many comments. He doesn't live in this area. I know that the official statement is he doesn't want to move the team, but, be nice to, he used to come a number of years ago, he used to come to many different games frequently throughout the seasons, but we just rarely see him. And so, there's a lot of people wondering, well, if perhaps there was a more present owner, there might be a different outcome on the court, during the season. I don't know if that ever came up with, I
mean,
go ahead.
I'm not really able. I'm not a sports reporter, right? So I'm not going to weigh in on that. And I would also say, in terms of where the owner lays their head at night or how many games they go to, I'm not sure. I mean, I think there are mixed outcomes across the NBA on exactly that. Whether, some of the more involved and present owners have some of the worst teams, or make some of the worst personnel decisions. Again, I'm not a sports reporter, but I'm not sure. That's what I would also say is just Robert Pera hasn't spoken to Memphis media since 2018, since he spoke to Jeff Calkins in 2018. I think all this reporting, all this conversation about Robert Pera is because there's a vacuum around from the man himself. And everyone should probably go read Jeff's column on our website, because that's really an interesting column about, how the Grizzlies communicate with this community, and it offers a really interesting and informed perspective there. And so, like, right now, I think there's a vacuum around, the man. And so what you saw, and a lot of people talking about the man, but not the man speaking himself, or the Grizzlies speaking themselves, in the article that I wrote. And look, it's worth noting that Memphis Mayor Paul Young has never spoken to Robert Parra. That's what he told Jeff and I. And so at the same time, people who work for Robert Parra deal with the mayor all the time on the Grizzlies deal, right? Team president Jason Wexler. So is it somebody having people who work for them and work closely with them doing what they want them to do? Is that not involvement? I don't know. It's obviously not personal involvement, but I think there are many ways to, peel an orange. And that's as much as I got for you there.
What about anything else that Richard Smith had to say with regards to the Grizzlies, their offer as a family to buy the franchise? Would it be a standing offer? Did he mention anything else?
Yeah, I mean, he said, and please go read the article on our website, that, if he ever changes his mind, if Parra changes his mind, the interest is standing, right? That they know we're interested. At the same time, I think one of the things that would be really interesting for people to read is, like, again, what Richard Smith said about the Grizzlies' involvement in downtown Memphis and the idea of pushing on the conditions of downtown Memphis, et cetera, and trying to improve those conditions. Again, that's, I think, a really interesting thing about what's happening in the present day that maybe hasn't gotten a lot of attention because the Grizzlies have been really quiet about it. But again, you have a prominent executive of this community saying a lot of the things that are underway in downtown Memphis, the Grizzlies have been pushing for. And so that, again, should point to people of why, if a team's going to leave, do they care about their neighborhood beyond, their present day conditions? It's the actions versus what they don't say.
Sam Hardiman, Daily Memphian, government politics reporter. We really appreciate you coming on the digital desk and just giving us a deep dive on this article that hit on Friday night, and it was a talker throughout the weekend. Sam, we appreciate it as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
You got it. All right, another live look from our High Five camera downtown. Nice looking shot, 34 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. We're supposed to reach near 50 degrees today. We're back in 1 minute on Action News 5's Digital Desk. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I want to play an interview I did a few months ago. It was about this Bartlett native Army officer. Okay, this is an Army commander who is being a part of Team USA in the Winter Olympic Games in the bobsled category, and just had an amazing conversation with Garrett Hines, Lieutenant Colonel with the U.S. Army. He spoke to me on the Action News 5 Digital Desk about how someone can go from being a Bartlett Panther here in the Mid-South area to being on Team USA in a bobsled, winning gold medals, and is now a coach. Great interview that I want to play right now as the Winter Olympic Game opening ceremonies, well, they begin on Friday here at Action News 5. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Well, my next guest is a three-time Olympian, and he's currently the Team USA bobsled coach. and he, in less than 100 days, will be in Italy for the 2026 Winter Olympic Games. Look at that shot right there. Bobsled, certainly a very competitive sport in the Winter Olympic Games. I'm joined on the Action News 5 digital desk by Bartlett native and Lieutenant Colonel with the U.S. Army, Garrett Hines, joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Garrett, good morning to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved in bobsled, especially growing up in Bartlett? Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. How you doing? Thank you for having me. Just want to say hello to all the folks there in Tennessee and Bartlett High School, my old alma mater there. Basically, I got involved by chance. I met a gentleman in college, and we drove 22 hours to Lake Placid. He asked me to come and try out. He had a flyer in his hand, and the flyer was from a guy that I eventually ended up sliding with. His name was Bruce Roselli. He was my first pilot, and that was my introduction to the sport. We drove 22 hours. We ended up paying a fee to stay at the Olympic Training Center. The next day we got up, which was required to pass a test, take a national test, and we passed that test, at least I did. And from there, my career started, and I had no idea I would even end up there, coming from Tennessee, by way of SIU. So that was my start.
Wow. Okay. You know, it's so interesting to hear how people get involved in certain competitions and certain sports. And bobsled, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Garrett, bobsled is one of those sports out there that you can travel super, super fast. And if you're not too careful, you can have an accident that can be devastating. I have some video I want to show our audience while you talk about what we're looking at here, because bobsled, give us the ideas behind it here and what the strategy is.
Well, basically, you're taking two of the most powerful guys you can possibly put together. And this is a two-man sled that you're seeing. The driver is on the left side. He's pushing at the driver's, we call the driver's bar. The brakeman is at the back. And you want to start the sled as fast as you can. You have 50 meters to get a time. That's called the start time. And you generally have about 42 meters to run before the groove lines run out. And you'll see those groove lines. That's what the sled is sitting in. Eventually, those are out, and you have to be in the sled and sitting down. And then the pilot there takes over and takes you to glory, hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. So, so tell me a little bit more about your experience. I understand you've done this 3 different times in the Olympics. What has that been like? Which Olympic Games, and what are you hoping for Team USA coming up in less than 100 days?
Yes, I've been in the sport since 1992, and I joined the World Class Army Athlete Program in '96. And between that time and 2006, I competed in various games and world championships. The highlight of my career was my first medal, which was in 1996, and the medal in 2002. And then in that case, I continued on training and eventually moved over into coaching. So I went to my first Olympics as Olympic coach in 2022, and that was in China. And what we're expecting for the next 100 days, we've started our season. We're training. We will have competition in Italy, which is the track that we'll be competing in February. And we're expecting big things from all of our athletes. Our women team is stacked. Our men team, we have some of the best athletes in the world this year. We have the most depth in the world this year. And some of those athletes are from the World Class Athlete Program, which I represent, which I'm so proud to be a part of.
Fantastic. All right. Bartlett Panthers' own Garrett Hines here on the Action News 5 digital desk. Garrett, I talked not too long ago with another U.S. Army soldier that's going to be competing in the biathlon for the Winter Olympic Games. Tell me more about these soldier athletes that are competing in this year's Winter Games.
Well, one of the things that we have as part of our, I'd say, Army community is that we have this program which provides resources for us to train. And it takes most of our average athletes to just another level because we have those resources. We have the ability to support just like any other Army soldier. And on top of that, we get top tier training. And that really is the crux of why we have these amazing soldier athletes. A lot of them have careers as well that they manage along with being an Olympic athlete. And we're producing some of the best individuals, I believe, representing our country.
Excellent stuff there. I appreciate it, Garrett. You know, Action News 5, as you probably know, is carrying much of the Olympic Games in just a few months. Anything you want to say to our audience right now? We have thousands of people who watch the Action News 5 digital desk each and every morning.
Yes, I just want to say, a couple things here. We really appreciate, I do appreciate, I want to make sure that this is known that our leadership, WCAP leadership, has done a great job with bringing and growing this program. You can find out anything you need to know about that on GoArmy.com. I also like to say that we always appreciate the nation getting behind the U.S., especially in the last 100 days. Our athletes are going through a lot of stress. They're going through a lot of competition, and we need that support. And lastly, I would like to just give I love you to my family. My mom, my aunt lives right there in Bartlett, Miss Shirley Hines. I want to say I love you and thank you for all your support, Andrew, and thank you for the city of Memphis and Bartlett and all the surrounding cities there that have always supported us. And even the mayor of Bartlett, I like to shout out to him, who's always given us support. So we really appreciate it and looking forward to doing great things here in the next 100 days.
Oh, yeah, we are looking forward to rooting you on as well, Garrett. Lieutenant Colonel Garrett Hines with the U.S. Army and coach of Team USA's bobsled team. Congratulations on such a successful career, not only in the military, but also with the Olympic Games. And good luck this upcoming Winter Olympic Games in Italy. Thanks so very much for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. Love you guys.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 digital desk here on a Monday morning. Let's look back at the month of January. It's hard to believe that after the last 2 weeks of dealing with freezing cold temperatures, ice and snow all across the region, that the beginning of the month started off with 70s. Yes, we had a week where we were 60s and 70s on a daily basis. The warmest day back on January the 8th at 73 degrees. The coldest day on January the 26th. Where we only managed a high of 20 degrees. And that had full sunshine that day, by the way. Needless to say, though, we have had a huge topsy-turvy couple of weeks here across the Mid-South. The vast majority of the month of January, though, falling below average. And with that being said, even this morning, we're still dealing with slick and icy roadways, especially on side and neighborhood roads. You know the drill at this point. Add some time, exercise caution to get out there here today, because after today, we should be in better shape in theory, because we'll have a couple of hours here, long period of time where we're going to be above freezing. 50 the high temperature for today, a southwest wind coming in 5 to 10 miles per hour. 40 tonight. So that means that we won't even drop below freezing here in the city of Memphis. So that continues a melting process as clouds begin to thicken. There may be a shower or two late, but I think that the better chances for rain will start moving in here as we get closer to like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Continue throughout much of the morning and early afternoon hours, topping out upper 40s near 50 degrees. A lot of the rain coming to an end as we get closer to the evening drive home, but there will still be some sporadic showers here and there. Behind that system, yeah, we do turn cooler. 38 the high temperature on Wednesday, 44 on Thursday, but the general trends here in the extended forecast, our average high is 53, by the way. Below average temperatures start to pull away from us. Warmer than average temperatures as a more pronounced ridging, which means usually warmer temperature starts to emerge as we head towards the mid portion of the month. That is good news for us. Most of the colder air will get kind of locked up to the New England states, but it does look for us generally a bit warmer. I think everybody can get behind that after this long stretch of extremely cold weather here across the Mid-South. So for today, we'll go for a high temperature of about 50 degrees. Beautiful day across the Mid-South with a ton of sunshine. Once we get past 9, 10 o'clock, we'll get above freezing, and we will stay above freezing for the better part of 36 hours because behind this system, yeah, we do drop back closer to freezing early on Wednesday morning. Tuesday does feature the opportunities for rain. We'll time it out with our first alert futurecast. More scattered showers to develop, especially through mid-morning. Maybe a few pockets of heavier rain, and I can't rule it out that maybe a random sleet pellet mixes in, but mostly this will just be a plain Jane rain event here across the Mid-South. Notice the colder air where snow falling across portions of Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. It stays north of the Ohio River for the most part. So again, this will be just rainfall for us. That's lunchtime. Most of the rain moving out towards Middle Tennessee, Northeast Mississippi, Northwest Alabama continues to push eastward. We'll still have some lingering showers on the backside of it as we see the clouds still hanging on tough. Now, there's some question marks here about ultimately how this will come and go and get out of here because the lower clouds may linger. And with temperatures that will be near freezing by early on Wednesday morning, there's some question marks that we'll be able to get all the moisture out. And I just don't think that that's going to be the case. So a couple scenarios could play out. One, we just end up with a lot of clouds early on Wednesday morning that are going to be a little bit more stubborn to break up. Two, freezing fog is a concern early on Wednesday morning as we'll drop down again here in the city close to freezing, but there could be some spots that will be down into the upper 20s. And if we don't have that moisture able to evaporate back into the atmosphere, there's a question mark if we could still have some slick spots as bridges and overpasses or non-treated roadways. Let's say it like that because a lot of the roadways are still treated. There could still be some slick spots early on Wednesday morning. 22 when we wake up early on Thursday. After a start at 22, we'll make a run for 44. Near 60 come Friday. Super Bowl weekend looks great. 52 on Saturday. We take a little downward trend here. It's not terrible. 56 on Sunday and look upper 50s and low 60s heading into next week. And I think everybody will get behind that, be happy about it. Above average temperatures for the first time in several weeks here across the Mid-South, but we still have a couple of instances and impacts to get past. One, the icy side and neighborhood roads here today, and then the rain that comes in here before a brief shot of Canadian air moves in here by Wednesday.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Government reports state that there are hundreds of thousands of people in our country who are being human trafficked right now. This is happening in plain sight. And on the Action News 5 Digital Desk, I want to talk with someone that can help us kind of recognize those signs. I am joined on the Action News 5 digital desk by Brandy Bynum. She works at the Center for Countering Human Trafficking. She joins us on the digital desk to talk about this problem, this issue. What are the signs we can recognize and how we can report it? Brandy, good morning to you. So let's talk and get into this. How can we report these signs? How bad of an issue is it? And what should we be looking for? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. So today is World Day Against Trafficking in Person. So it's the perfect day to have a conversation like this. So first, I'd like to talk about what human trafficking actually is. It's the use of force, fraud, or coercion for somebody trying to obtain a commercial sex act or labor. And so that's the first thing, is that human trafficking is both sex trafficking and labor trafficking. And you mentioned at the top that it's a global issue. So it's happening right here in the United States, in our cities, big and small, our suburbs and our rural areas. And it's affecting men, women, and children.
Yeah, no question about it. I want to get into some of the issues, though, that ways that we can report it and spot it.
Absolutely. So some indicators that members of the public may be able to recognize is someone who doesn't have possession of their personal identification. We've seen that traffickers will take somebody's license or their passport to maintain control over them so they can't move about. Someone who may show signs of physical abuse, so various signs of bruising, or show signs of malnourishment. Someone who looks disheveled. Someone who doesn't have eye contact when you're holding a conversation with them, or their answers feel scripted. So those are some indicators that members of the public may recognize from a victim of human trafficking.
Okay, and if we see this, Brandy, what do we do? How do we report something like this?
Absolutely. So I encourage our viewers today to report to the DHS tip line. We investigate over 400 crimes here at Homeland Security Investigations, human trafficking being one of them. So individuals can report to federal law enforcement anonymously 24/7. Our hotline is available in multiple languages. If you potentially recognize a victim or may be a victim after hearing some of the indicators that we discussed today, I encourage you to call the National Human Trafficking Hotline. They provide and have contacts all over the U.S. with service providers that can provide housing, food, shelter, water, medical care. And so those are two hotlines, a hotline and a tip line that I recommend calling if you recognize human trafficking.
Let's talk about maybe some common myths out there, some things that people don't necessarily agree with when it comes to human trafficking that you want to dispel right now.
Absolutely. So we already talked about human trafficking happening here in the United States. You wouldn't believe the amount of people that I talk to across the nation that don't believe that it happens here. Number two is that it doesn't just happen to women and girls. It absolutely happens to men and boys. It's just unreported in that demographic. I mentioned labor trafficking. Labor trafficking is actually more prevalent across the world versus sex trafficking. But we typically talk about sex trafficking because it's easier to spot those indicators. And so there are millions of people across the globe, including here in the United States, especially in our rural areas, that are being labor trafficked, whether it's in restaurants or at hospitality or in agriculture on farms or at construction sites. And these people are forced to work long hours. They are forced to work with little or no pay, inhumane working conditions. And then I would say the last one is the difference between human trafficking and human smuggling. I see that getting mixed up all the time. So human trafficking is a crime against a person. Human smuggling is a crime against the border, and it involves transportation. So when it comes to human trafficking, somebody can be human trafficked right from their home. They don't necessarily have to be kidnapped or being moved from place to place.
I appreciate you explaining the difference there, Brandy. Thank you so much. So how can communities, how can just everyday Americans, how can we take action and prevent human trafficking?
The number one thing is to get educated about the crime. So we've talked in the couple minutes that we've had together this morning about what the crime is, some indicators, but there is not enough time in this segment to talk about all the things. So I encourage people to go visit our website at dhs.gov/blue campaign to get more information. Our campaign is federally funded. So everything that we have and everything that we provide is absolutely free. Last year, we sent out over 2.8 million pieces of public awareness material. So whether that was posters or indicator cards or toolkits, please just visit our website. We have all different things on there for people to either download and print at home, or we'll ship to you for free. Free training. We'll even send people out from my team to come talk to your community members or your school groups, young people, old people, whoever, just to get the word out. So education is key. And just have a conversation with somebody about human trafficking, because I think the more we talk about it and we reduce the stigma about the crime, the more lives we could potentially help save.
You know, Brandy, I saw a number that said hundreds of thousands of people in the U.S. Are suspected of being human trafficked. Is that accurate? What numbers are you seeing?
It's actually much higher than that. Globally, we're looking at a little over 27 million people that human trafficking affects. And so I know that's a very large number, but we have to remember that human trafficking is comprised of both sex trafficking and labor trafficking. So we talked a little bit about labor trafficking with the long hours, the no wages, but we also have to talk about forced labor in the supply chain. So we have to be smart consumers, because there's a lot of things that we may purchase from overseas, off of different platforms that may be produced by forced labor. So I like to think if something is super cheap, if I'm buying a $1 shirt, that person who made the shirt is probably getting pennies to the dollar. And so when we talk about how trafficking affects us globally and even here in the United States, we have to include that piece about the forced labor in the supply chain, in addition to domestic forced labor and sex trafficking.
Brandy, I just want to reiterate for our audience, we have thousands of people watching right now. If someone has no personal ID, if they look like they've been physically abused, maybe different kinds of black and blue marks, that sort of thing, if they're disheveled and no eye contact, those are all signs of human trafficking. Anything else you want to mention to our audience right now? We broadcast in the Memphis area, West Tennessee, North Mississippi, Eastern Arkansas.
Yeah, so in addition to those indicators, another physical indicator could be branding. So we know that traffickers may tattoo their victims with either their name or their group signature. So if you see a group of people with the same tattoo and it doesn't look like a friendship tattoo, that could be an indicator as well. Also encourage the viewers to not approach a potential victim of human trafficking. If you are not law enforcement, please do not intervene. That is why we have the hotline number. That is why we have the tip line number. And if you think that somebody is in immediate danger, please call 911.
Okay, Brandy Bynum, we appreciate your time here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. An eye-opening interview for sure. Thank you for all the information you've given to us, and we appreciate your time on the Digital Desk. And we wish you all the best in this position that you're in right now to kind of combat and bring down the numbers of human trafficking all across the country and the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Let's talk about cholesterol for a minute. We hear about good levels of cholesterol, bad levels of cholesterol. We hear about good and bad cholesterol. Let's bring in someone to decipher what all this means and how we can lead the best healthy life possible. I'm joined right now by Dr. Anna Yang with Regional One Health. Dr. Yang, again, thank you so much for joining us on the digital desk. So we hear so much about good and bad cholesterol. Tell us about these two types and how we should deal with them both. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks again for having me. So yes, cholesterol can be a little bit difficult to understand. So cholesterol is something that everybody has in their body and everybody needs to have in their body. It's really important for a lot of your body's functions, making cells and some vitamins and different things. So everybody has to have cholesterol. So where cholesterol becomes a problem is when there's too much of it. So when you go to your doctor and you get your cholesterol levels tested, you usually get a whole slew of numbers called the lipid panel. And so on this lipid panel, you might find things like total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, and triglycerides. So what you hear about when people say bad cholesterol is they're generally referring to that LDL. Or the low density lipoprotein. And this is a type of cholesterol. And these are the bad cholesterols because they're responsible for narrowing your blood vessels. They're the ones that if people say, oh, you've got too much cholesterol in your arteries and they're clogging your blood flow and, you're at risk for certain things like, heart disease or strokes. That's what they're talking about is that LDL. Now, on the flip side, the HDL you actually want more of. So the HDL is, quote unquote, that good cholesterol. And the good thing about the HDL is it actually helps you remove the unwanted cholesterols from your body. So it brings cholesterol back to the liver is one of the things that it does to remove some of the cholesterols that you don't want to build up. So that's what makes it, quote unquote, the good cholesterol.
So let me ask you, because I know that these numbers have changed over time. There have been numbers where the bad cholesterol or the overall cholesterol can't exceed 200, and now that number's been reduced. Tell me where we are on the proper levels. I'm not even sure if I'm saying it right.
Sure. So the most important numbers are really the LDL and the HDL. That total cholesterol number doesn't matter as much as those two, and the ratio of how much LDL versus non-LDL cholesterol that you have. The main non-LDL cholesterol is HDL, but there are other non-LDL cholesterols out there too. So the LDL cholesterol, we would like that number lower. So ideally under 100. Now, certain people who already have some medical conditions may want that number even lower, potentially even, less than 80 or 70, depending on other factors. But in general, LDL under 100 is the goal. The HDL, on the other hand, you want higher. So greater than 40 or 60 or, higher numbers are a good thing for HDL.
Okay, so I'm just thinking about my panels when I get blood work done. Sometimes they were like, okay, you got to keep your cholesterol levels under 200. Are they factoring in HDL and LDL with that?
So generally with that 200 number, they're talking about the total cholesterol number, which matters as well. But truly the LDL is the more important one that you want lower.
Okay. And what about lipoprotein little a? Because that is something that more and more people are talking about. And I'm just wondering if that is a big concern when it comes to heart disease.
Yeah, so it's a different number now that people are using to measure, and it does seem to correlate with risk factors for things like heart disease. So even though that number isn't traditionally in your typical lipid panel, sometimes doctors, again, depending on your risk factors and what other medical conditions you have, are ordering this test too as another way to measure the cholesterol levels and your risk and whether or not you need to be on potentially medication to lower your cholesterol.
Okay, and what are some of the best ways to improve our cholesterol numbers?
So non-medication wise, diet is really where you really need to, monitor for your cholesterol. So the majority of the cholesterol that your body needs is already being made by your liver. So you really don't need extra cholesterol. And you get cholesterol from animal products. So these are things like meat or dairy or eggs. So you want to decrease the amount of saturated fat that you're eating. These will contribute to your LDL going up. So saturated fats, especially things that you find in these animal products. But you want to increase instead the diet of good fats. So these are your unsaturated fats. These include things like avocado fats, fats that you get from nuts or seeds or fish. So changing the ratio of where you get fat from your diet will make a big difference. For those who are overweight, even losing just 5 to 10 pounds can make a pretty good difference on your cholesterol numbers. The other thing is increasing fiber, increasing your soluble fiber intake, decreasing your overall calories. These also make a good difference with your cholesterol as well, raising the HDL and lowering the LDL.
What's the most important thing you want people to remember when it comes to cholesterol, your numbers, how to bring it down, everything that we talked about?
So the first step is to check. So the first step is to make sure you go to your doctor and you get appropriate screening. Sometimes these aren't things that you feel. Sometimes people with normal weights have elevated cholesterol without knowing it. It's not always just something you get when you're overweight or obese. So make sure you go to your doctor. We even recommend children now get screened for cholesterol because we're seeing that even children are having problems with high cholesterol. So the first step is just to make sure you go to your doctor, get screened at appropriate intervals, do what you can, to improve your own habits in your daily life. And if necessary, potentially starting medication as prescribed by your doctor to lower your risk, for heart disease, strokes, and even losing your arms or legs because you don't have good blood flow to these parts of your body.
All right, Dr. Anna Yang, we appreciate your time as always on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Very informative this morning. Thank you.
All right, thanks for having me.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. There is a severe blood shortage, and the American Red Cross is calling on all kinds of people to roll up their sleeves and donate blood in the new year to help prevent delays in medical care for so many hospital patients across our area and across the country. I'm joined now on the Action News 5 Digital Desk by Dr. Courtney Lawrence. She is Division Chief Medical Officer at the American Red Cross. Courtney, good morning to you. Tell me how bad the shortage is of blood.
Good morning. So, as many people know, the Red Cross works continuously and tirelessly throughout the year to collect blood from generous blood donors so that we have an adequate national blood supply to meet the needs of our hospitals across the countries. Unfortunately, due to multiple circumstances, the hospital demand has really outpaced our ability to collect as much as we would normally like to feel secure in having the inventory to meet hospital needs. And it's decreased our inventory by a little bit more than a third.
You know, we have this winter weather that's certainly affecting us here in the Memphis area. Of course, it's affecting so many other states across the country. How has that affected the blood shortage?
So we definitely expect that every year the winter months are going to pose some unique challenges in terms of holding our blood drives. But this year has really been exceptional. In the month of December, we saw 3 times the number of blood drives that were shortened or closed due to winter impact. And just in this weekend alone, due to Fern and the subsequent ice and snow, we saw about 350 blood drives located between Oklahoma and Maine that had to be canceled. And that really decreased our blood and platelet donations that we expected by about 10,000 units that were anticipated to go to patients in need.
You know, a lot of people hear about blood shortages, but it really does have an impact, especially at so many hospitals across the country. Can you talk a little bit about the impact when there is this kind of blood shortage, Courtney?
Sure. In my role at Red Cross, I partner very closely with hospitals and healthcare providers, and we're trying to help one another be the best stewards of our valuable blood donations. But those stewardship efforts can really only go so far. So when we just simply don't have enough blood on the shelf to meet all of the anticipated patient needs, healthcare providers have to make really difficult decisions, and patients are the ones who feel consequences. We definitely know that there are people who need continuous blood transfusions, maybe because they have a blood disorder like sickle cell disease, and they really rely on blood transfusions throughout the year to be able to go out and live their lives. But also we know that emergencies happen and surges can occur. So we all hope that we won't need a blood transfusion, but the reality is any one of us could experience an emergency on any given day where we need a blood transfusion to save our lives, and we hope that blood is available for us.
So, Courtney, I understand there's a special gift for people who like to donate blood this time of year. Tell me more.
Sure. So anyone who donates blood or platelets between now and the end of February, so February 28th, will receive a $20 e-gift card to a merchant of their choice, which I think is a nice thank you to our blood donors who generously come in and roll up a sleeve. But there are also other benefits to blood donation, and one of them is that we do a little mini physical for every blood donor who comes in to donate blood, where we get their heart rate, their temperature, their blood pressure, their hemoglobin level. And that information is made available back to those donors either through the Red Cross Blood Donor app or on redcrossblood.org in their donor account, so that they have access to that important healthcare information and that can empower their own health decision making.
Okay, quickly now, how can people donate if they see this and they want to give some blood? What's the best way to do that, most efficient way?
The easiest way to do that is to look for an appointment at a blood drive closest to you, and that can be done through redcrossblood.org. Looking in, putting in your zip code, finding that blood drive, scheduling an appointment, and then we just recommend that the night before your donation, you get a good night's sleep, you eat a healthy meal before you come in to donate, don't fast for your blood donation, and make sure that you drink plenty of water so that you're well hydrated and that you recover easily and well from the donation process.
Okay, Dr. Courtney Lawrence with the American Red Cross, we appreciate your time. Thank you for highlighting the issues involved with this severe blood shortage right now and best ways and methods to get that blood supply and offer a donation. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk here on a Monday morning. Let's look back at the month of January. It's hard to believe that after the last 2 weeks of dealing with freezing cold temperatures, ice and snow all across the region, that the beginning of the month started off with 70s. Yes, we had a week where we were 60s and 70s on a daily basis. The warmest day back on January the 8th at 73 degrees. The coldest day on January the 26th. Where we only managed a high of 20 degrees. And that had full sunshine that day, by the way. Needless to say, though, we have had a huge topsy-turvy couple of weeks here across the Mid-South. The vast majority of the month of January, though, falling below average. And with that being said, even this morning, we're still dealing with slick and icy roadways, especially on side and neighborhood roads. You know the drill at this point. Add some time, exercise caution to get out there here today, because after today, we should be in better shape in theory, because we'll have a couple of hours here, long period of time where we're going to be above freezing. 50 the high temperature for today, a southwest wind coming in 5 to 10 miles per hour, 40 tonight. So that means that we won't even drop below freezing here in the city of Memphis. So that continues a melting process as clouds begin to thicken. There may be a shower or two late, but I think that the better chances for rain will start moving in here as we get closer to like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Continue throughout much of the morning and early afternoon hours, topping out upper 40s near 50 degrees. A lot of the rain coming to an end as we get closer to the evening drive home, but there will still be some sporadic showers here and there. Behind that system, yeah, we do turn cooler. 38 the high temperature on Wednesday, 44 on Thursday, but the general trends here in the extended forecast, our average high is 53, by the way. Below average temperatures start to pull away from us. Warmer than average temperatures as a more pronounced ridging, which means usually warmer temperature starts to emerge as we head towards the mid portion of the month. That is good news for us. Most of the colder air will get kind of locked up to the New England states, but it does look for us generally a bit warmer. I think everybody can get behind that after this long stretch of extremely cold weather here across the Mid-South. So for today, we'll go for a high temperature of about 50 degrees. Beautiful day across the Mid-South with a ton of sunshine. Once we get past 9, 10 o'clock, we'll get above freezing, and we will stay above freezing for the better part of 36 hours, because behind this system, yeah, we do drop back closer to freezing early on Wednesday morning. Tuesday does feature the opportunities for rain. We'll time it out with our First Alert Futurecast. More scattered showers to develop, especially through mid-morning. Maybe a few pockets of heavier rain, and I can't rule it out that maybe a random sleet pellet mixes in, but mostly this will just be a plain Jane rain event here across the Mid-South. Notice the colder air where snow falling across portions of Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. It stays north of the Ohio River for the most part. So again, this will be just rainfall for us. That's lunchtime. Most of the rain moving out towards Middle Tennessee, Northeast Mississippi, Northwest Alabama continues to push eastward. We'll still have some lingering showers on the backside of it as we see the clouds still hanging on tough. Now, there's some question marks here about ultimately how this will come and go and get out of here, because the lower clouds may linger, and with temperatures that will be near freezing by early on Wednesday morning, there's some question marks that we'll be able to get all the moisture out, and I just don't think that that's going to be the case. So a couple scenarios could play out. One, we just end up with a lot of clouds early on Wednesday morning that are going to be a little bit more stubborn to break up. Two, freezing fog is a concern early on Wednesday morning, as we'll drop down again here in the city close to freezing, but there could be some spots that will be down into the upper 20s. And if we don't have that moisture able to evaporate back into the atmosphere, there's a question mark if we could still have some slick spots as bridges and overpasses or non-treated roadways. Let's say it like that, because a lot of the roadways are still treated. There could still be some slick spots early on Wednesday morning. 22 when we wake up early on Thursday. After a start at 22, we'll make a run for 44. Near 60 come Friday. Super Bowl weekend looks great. 52 on Saturday. We take a little downward trend here. It's not terrible. 56 on Sunday, and look upper 50s and low 60s heading into next week. And I think everybody will get behind that, be happy about it. Above average temperatures for the first time in several weeks here across the Mid-South, but we still have a couple of instances and impacts to get past. One, the icy side and neighborhood roads here today, and then the rain that comes in here before a brief shot of Canadian air moves in here by Wednesday.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Have you ever heard of Banana Ball? I had to look this up. Banana Ball is on a world tour in 2026, next month, and they are going everywhere, including Memphis. So there's going to be some 3.2 million fans that are going to check out Banana Ball in 2026. They're going into 75 different stadiums, 45 states, 71 cities, and one of those cities is Memphis. So I had to Google it. I had to do my own search. It is incredible. Let me show you some of this video that is amazing, okay? And it is coming to Memphis next year. There's all kinds of things all kinds of tricks, stuff that's never been done before. And I'm joined on the Action News 5 Digital Desk by one of the players, Clark Gilmore, joining me now to talk more about Banana Ball, what it is, and what the fans can expect when it comes to Memphis. Clark, tell me what's going on with Banana Ball and the craze that is affecting everyone who sees it. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. As you said, we have 3.2 million people that we're going to affect in person in the 2026 Banana Ball Tour. We've got 6 new teams. I'm a member of the newest one, the Indianapolis Clowns, and we're going to get to play in, as you said, 45 states. But really, this is the greatest show in sports. Fans get to experience the game like you never have before, and when you come to the ballpark, you never know what you're going to get.
So we're looking at some video right now. It looks very intense. It looks high energy, trick shots, but there's actually a baseball game going on, right? Explain it to us in layman's terms.
There sure are. We've got players with the greatest baseball skills in the world. We have College World Series champions. We have former first-round draft picks. And we also have a former World Series champion in my teammate, Jackie Bradley Jr., who won a World Series with the Boston Red Sox and is now a member of the Indianapolis Clowns. But yeah, this is baseball without the boring stuff. There's no bunting, there's no walks, and the fans get to participate in a way they can't in any other sport, where if they catch a foul ball, it counts. The batter's out. So the fans get to have this impact that you can't in any other place in the world.
That sounds amazing, Clark. I love it. Tell me the origins. How did this come about?
Well, our fearless leader, Jesse Cole, got things started when he took over as the Savannah Bananas president for the Coastal Plains Collegiate Baseball League. But then he noticed that, people weren't coming to games. People weren't staying the entire length. Baseball's a long game. I've played it for a long time. And when he realized that, he felt like he needed to keep the fans in their seats. And so with the birth of Fans First Entertainment, he put that focus on the fans. What do fans want to see? Well, they want to be at the ballpark for a specific amount of time. So let's put a 2-hour time limit on the game. What do fans want to do? They want to bring their glove to the field and have the ability to make an impact on the real game. And now they can. With a foul ball, they can make that play. So really, it was putting the fans first and getting to this point now where we're impacting over 3 million people in person next year.
That sounds awesome. I don't know when it's going to be here in Memphis. Perhaps you do. But so this all stems from the Savannah Bananas?
Absolutely. The Bananas were the first team, and they ended up taking on the Party Animals, who we will be playing March 7th and 8th here in Memphis at AutoZone Park, the 2025 Tour Champion Party Animals, that is. But everything started with the Bananas and then the Party Animals, and we expanded to 4 teams last year. And there was a draft in November to add 2 additional teams, the Loco Beach Coconuts and my team, the Indianapolis Clowns. And now we have those 6 teams that make up the Banana Ball Championship League, where each team will be playing 60 games across the 2026 World Tour.
That sounds fantastic. So if someone's watching this, and we have thousands of people who watch each and every morning, Clark, if someone's watching this and they want to get tickets, how should they prepare for this game?
Well, the best way to prepare to get tickets is the wait list is long, but head over to bananaball.com and that will tell you all the information you need on tickets. But let me tell you this, if you get the chance to go to a Banana Ball game, you got to go. I got to experience it as a fan myself before entering the organization, and it was without a doubt the most fun I ever had at a sporting event. I got to go on the field. I got to be a part of the in-game entertainment. I got to watch fans make plays in the stands. It really is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I certainly couldn't recommend it more.
That sounds fantastic. I'll give you the last word, Clark. Anything else you want to mention? You're, by the way, an accomplished baseball player as well, a pitcher, my understanding, right?
Absolutely, yeah. If you'd like to see a behind-the-back pitch, a guy throw on stilts, someone hit a baseball, the hardest thing to do in sports, off of a unicycle, you're going to see those types of things at a banana ball game. And we'd love to see you guys out at AutoZone Park March 7th and 8th to take on the Party Animals.
Fantastic. Wow. Clark Gilmore really selling it for us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I appreciate your time, Clark. This is going to be so much fun. I'm looking forward to it myself. Coming up in March at AutoZone Park with Banana Ball 2026. Clark Gilmore, really appreciate your time on the Digital Desk. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Andrew.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. More than 38 million Americans will be diagnosed with diabetes. And here in Tennessee, that translates to more than 760,000 Tennesseans. This is one of those diseases that you have to constantly monitor and figure out ways to control it best. And if you can, try to eliminate those symptoms, especially for type 2 diabetes. Joining me on the Action News 5 Digital Desk, I am joined right now by Dr. Anna Yang. She's a physician at Regional One Hospital to talk more, do kind of a deep dive on diabetes. Dr. Yang, where should we begin when it comes to this conversation of Memphis and the Mid-South and ways to watch for symptoms, control it, that sort of thing? Where do you want to begin this morning? Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. So diabetes is such an important topic and such a huge topic that we're definitely not going to be able to cover everything that I would like to say on this short little segment. But this is definitely a good starting point. So many people have diabetes, and a lot of people really don't know what to do with it, how to prevent it, and really don't understand kind of the downstream effects of it either and what it can ultimately cause. Because a lot of times diabetes can be completely asymptomatic, as in you could feel a whole lot of nothing with having diabetes. So it's important to see a doctor to get screened. So as far as type 2 diabetes goes, this is more of a disease that starts in adulthood after years of potentially, eating wrong or having an inactive lifestyle, or, genetics definitely plays a role in it too. But with, childhood obesity going on, we're seeing kids with type 2 diabetes as well. Some of the symptoms that somebody with diabetes might notice early on when their blood sugar is pretty high before it's controlled can include, feeling thirsty all the time, having to go to the bathroom and urinate or pee a lot, maybe having some blurry vision, but sometimes people with diabetes have no symptoms at all because it requires a blood sugar high enough that you notice these symptoms because the blood sugar has to be high enough that the body's trying to get rid of it through the pee, which is where you get some of these peeing a lot and, thirstiness symptoms. So even before you start to have symptoms, it is definitely important to go see your doctor for regular screening tests.
So you were mentioning this is type 2 diabetes, and that's something you can control, either prevent, right? I mean, type 1 is more genetic based. Am I accurate with that?
Yeah, so type 1 is somewhat genetic based, but also it's sometimes just random, even when there's no genetic predisposition necessarily. But type 1 diabetes is generally not something somebody can prevent. It's an autoimmune disease of the pancreas, so it's not something that someone can control. Although sometimes with very late stage diabetes, when it gets really severe, sometimes it even starts to act like a type 1 diabetes, because your body's insulin system and pancreas are just working so poorly at that point, that it's not just insulin resistance, but you're also not producing much insulin anymore. So there's a little bit of overlap, where type 1 diabetes at later stages can act kind of physiologically like a type 1 diabetic. But yes, type 2 diabetes is the main thing that we're talking about, is the main thing that's potentially preventable, and that we can really work on as a population.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about ways to prevent developing type 2 diabetes, because I know a lot of it begins with just your lifestyle, your diet, what you're doing, that sort of thing, right?
Yes, I mean, prevention is all about your lifestyle. It's all about, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, being careful of what you're eating, making sure, you're eating a good, healthy diet that's, low in, simple carbohydrates and sugars, and making sure you're staying active and exercising on a regular basis.
Are there any tests, Anna, that we could take to see if we're prone to diabetes, or we're headed that way, or preventing it?
Yeah, so you're just, getting a random glucometer over the counter can help, but it's definitely not completely accurate for diagnosing diabetes or even pre-diabetes. So that's why it's definitely important to go to your doctor and see them. They can, give you a better idea of when, based on your risk factors and your age, when you need to start really screening for diabetes. In general, there are 2 tests for your average adult that we use, which is the fasting glucose, which is just your blood sugar check after you haven't eaten for about 8 hours or so, and then the hemoglobin A1C study, which kind of gives us more of an idea of what your blood sugars are doing over about a 3-month period. For pregnant people, for gestational diabetes screening, which is diabetes you get because of pregnancy potentially, there's a different type of test called the glucose tolerance test, where you're drinking a sugary drink and then they're checking your blood sugar after that.
Let me ask you about the holidays. We're entering a holiday season where there's going to be a lot of eating and sweets and cocktails and that sort of thing. What are your best practices to just kind of stay on the straight and narrow with all this great food that's very rich and a lot of times full of sugar and that sort of thing?
Yeah, diabetes is really tough this time of year. So it's a great time to talk about this in between the Halloween candy and the Thanksgiving dinner and the Christmas cookies. It's a tough time to have diabetes, but it is really important to stay on top of it. Now, that doesn't mean giving up every single sweet. That doesn't mean, not being able to take part in, these festivities and food, because, with our culture, food is such a big part of enjoying the holidays and being with family and friends. So definitely, don't completely deprive yourself of everything and be miserable, but just be careful what you're doing. Definitely, watch what you're eating in moderation. If you are going to have some sweets and desserts, just take really limited portions. Make sure you're monitoring your blood sugar still, make sure you're taking your medication still. And if you're attending these, festivities, maybe think about bringing some, different food. If you know that the only food that they're going to have there is, things that are not good for your diabetes, then, bring your own snacks, that you can have, so that you can still be eating with the group, but not necessarily, completely ignoring your diabetes and, hurting your body in the process.
Fantastic. Okay, final thoughts before we let you go, Anna, about anything else we haven't touched on with regards to diabetes control, symptoms, ways to prevent it, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it sounds kind of ominous, but just remember that even if you don't feel anything, if you have diabetes and you let your blood sugars go, even if you feel okay in that moment, that high blood sugar inside of you is causing damage to your nerves, your blood vessels, your immune system. It can, make it more difficult for you to fight off infections. It can cause major vision problems, even blindness later on. It is definitely a risk factor for, heart attacks and strokes and, major disease diseases like that, and also kidney failure and losing your limbs because of poor blood flow, to your legs. So these are all really important things to keep in mind through this holiday season. It may not seem important because you don't feel bad when your blood sugars are, somewhat high, but it is still causing problems inside of you. So it is really important that even through all of, the good food and, everything out there, the sweets and everything, that you still remember this and still treat it seriously.
All right, Dr. Anna Yang joining us on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We appreciate the info as always, Anna. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. There is a new exhibit that is coming to Memphis Botanic Garden. It is called Bloom, A Million Shades of Spring, and it is going to be unfolding March through May of this year with over 1 million blooms coming to life across Memphis Botanic Gardens, 96 beautiful acres. Joining me now to talk more about this is Olivia Wall at the Action News 5 Digital Desk at Memphis Botanic Garden. Olivia, this looks amazing. Tell me more about it. Good morning.
Good morning. We are so excited that we were just able to announce Bloom A Million Shades of Spring. It's going to be just a season of magic and constant renewal. Everybody loves spring in Memphis because we're coming into the warmer weather. Things start popping up across the city. And so we're super excited to celebrate it here at the garden and invite the community out. We've got tons of programming we're packing in. So if you've been here for our cherry blossom picnic, which is one of our signature experiences, just imagine that for 3 months. And so we have hundreds of thousands of tulips that'll be blooming. In April, our cherry blossom, our Yoshino cherry blossoms are usually bloom in March. And then we go right into all those signature southern blooms that everybody knows and loves. Our hydrangeas, our roses, our irises, and on and on and on.
That is amazing. It looks so beautiful on pictures here, but I know in person it's going to be amazing. Tell me about the thought process behind this whole idea, because this is the first year for this exhibit, right?
Absolutely. So we've always done, as most botanic gardens do, tulips. But so this year we're really blowing it out of the park. And we're super excited that it's the Dixons' 50th birthday this year. So they are also planting hundreds of thousands of tulips. And so at the corner of Park and Cherry, you have a very rare experience that you can see 2 botanic gardens in full bloom, which will end up being close to 1 million tulips, which will be one of the largest tulip displays in the United States.
Fantastic, and I love seeing these pictures. It's just so gorgeous. So tell us how people can get involved in this, Olivia. How can they be a part of this, see this? It's running from, is this March 1st to May 31st? How is it going to go?
That's the hope. Obviously, with blooms and flowers, we're dependent on weather. But we have programming that kicks off at the very beginning of March and runs all the way through May. So even if we have some of those blooms are a little bit stubborn and we get a cold front kind of closer in, we still will have that programming that will connect you to those blooms. So one of the signature programming experiences will be every single Saturday from 10 to 4. We'll have food trucks, we'll have kids activities, we'll be celebrating the blooms. Plus we'll be partnering with cultural partners. So people like the Memphis Symphony Orchestra will be out here, 901 Ty Iko from Stax Academy. We've got a lot of fun partnerships in the works right now. We also have some really exciting 21 plus elevated evenings. We'll do a tulips at twilight among the swaths of tulips in early April. And we're also going to do a kind of very fun elevated afternoon tea experience in early May.
It sounds great. It looks great. Anything else we can touch on before we let you go, Olivia? I can't wait.
Absolutely. Yeah. So head to our website, membg.org/bloom, and you'll find all the information on there. As we get a little closer, we'll be releasing all of the information about all of the programming, all the details. Otherwise, if you're just in desperate need of spring and a little bit of fun, lush greenery. I'm standing in our tropical plant house right now, and so it is warm, it is lush. So if you need a little bit of a break from Memphis winter, please come and check us out.
Okay, there it is one more time. Bloom at the Garden, a million shades of spring from March to May 2026. Memphis is blooming big. Start your spring here. Olivia Wall joining us on the Action News 5 Digital Desk to talk all about it. We appreciate your time as always, Olivia. Thank you so much.
And with that being said, even this morning, we're still dealing with slick and icy roadways, especially on side and neighborhood roads. You know the drill at this point. Add some time, exercise caution to get out there here today, because after today, we should be in better shape in theory, because we'll have a couple of hours here, long period of time where we're going to be above freezing. 50 the high temperature for today, a southwest wind coming in 5 to 10 miles per hour, 40 tonight. So that means that we won't even drop below freezing here in the city of Memphis. So that continues a melting process as clouds begin to thicken. There may be a shower or two late, but I think that the better chances for rain will start moving in here as we get closer to like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Continue throughout much of the morning and early afternoon hours, topping out upper 40s near 50 degrees. A lot of the rain coming to an end as we get closer to the evening drive home, but there will still be some sporadic showers here and there. Behind that system, yeah, we do turn cooler. 38 the high temperature on Wednesday, 44 on Thursday, but the general trends here in the extended forecast, our average high is 53, by the way. Below average temperatures start to pull away from us. Warmer than average temperatures as a more pronounced ridging, which means usually warmer temperature starts to emerge as we head towards the mid portion of the month. That is good news for us. Most of the colder air will get kind of locked up to the New England states, but it does look for us generally a bit warmer. I think everybody can get behind that after this long stretch of extremely cold weather here across the Mid-South. So for today, we'll go for a high temperature of about 50 degrees. Beautiful day across the Mid-South with a ton of sunshine. Once we get past 9, 10 o'clock, we'll get above freezing, and we will stay above freezing for the better part of 36 hours, because behind this system, yeah, we do drop back closer to freezing early on Wednesday morning. Tuesday does feature the opportunities for rain. We'll time it out with our first alert futurecast. More scattered showers to develop, especially through mid-morning. Maybe a few pockets of heavier rain, and I can't rule it out that maybe a random sleet pellet mixes in, but mostly this will just be a plain Jane rain event here across the Mid-South. Notice the colder air where snow falling across portions of Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. It stays north of the Ohio River for the most part. So again, this will be just rainfall for us. That's lunchtime. Most of the rain moving out towards Middle Tennessee, Northeast Mississippi, Northwest Alabama continues to push eastward. We'll still have some lingering showers on the backside of it as we see the clouds still hanging on tough. Now, there's some question marks here about ultimately how this will come and go and get out of here, because the lower clouds may linger, and with temperatures that will be near freezing by early on Wednesday morning, there's some question marks that we'll be able to get all the moisture out, and I just don't think that that's going to be the case. So a couple scenarios could play out. One, we just end up with a lot of clouds early on Wednesday morning that are going to be a little bit more stubborn to break up. Two, freezing fog is a concern early on Wednesday morning, as we'll drop down again here in the city close to freezing, but there could be some spots that will be down into the upper 20s. And if we don't have that moisture able to evaporate back into the atmosphere, there's a question mark if we could still have some slick spots as bridges and overpasses or non-treated roadways. Let's say it like that, because a lot of the roadways are still treated. There could still be some slick spots early on Wednesday morning. 22 when we wake up early on Thursday. After a start at 22, we'll make a run for 44. Near 60 come Friday. Super Bowl weekend looks great. 52 on Saturday. We take a little downward trend here. It's not terrible. 56 on Sunday, and look upper 50s and low 60s heading into next week. And I think everybody will get behind that, be happy about it. Above average temperatures for the first time in several weeks here across the Mid-South, but we still have a couple of instances and impacts to get past. One, the icy side and neighborhood roads here today, and then the rain that comes in here before a brief shot of Canadian air moves in here by Wednesday.
All right, that does it for us here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We got midday coming up at the top of the hour with Jerry Askin, and join me once again tomorrow morning bright and early for another edition of the Digital Desk that begins at